Yeah.
Going live. Going live. Going live. You're live.
What a twist.
It is a twist. Hello.
Good day.
Caradog, you've changed. Also, here's Caradog.
Hi.
Right, now would be a good time to insert ads. I'm sure it would be, Google. I'm sure it would be.
Of course it is. Google always knows best.
Yeah. Interestingly, in case anyone cares about the way that YouTube channels are run, the new rules for how you're allowed to enable monetization on YouTube. You know they changed the monetization rules so you can no longer select what type of ads appear.
Yeah.
Those are coming into force as of now. It asked me all of that stuff when I scheduled the stream.
Interesting.
So for anyone who cares about how YouTube channels are run, the new rules just came into effect. So yeah,
We shall see if that makes any difference.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't changed the way I'm set up. I'm still running it exactly the same as it was. But yeah, if you see anyone sort of going, oh, the adverts have changed, or I'm seeing more ads than usual and stuff like that, it's probably because if anyone is going to start enabling mid-rolls, now is the time that they would probably do it and such like that.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, beans. Anyway, hello. Yes, how are we all doing? Welcome in, everyone. 15-minute unstoppable. 15-second unskippable. It's not that bad.
15 minutes unskippable ads.
That's why you need the video controls.
Every 5 minutes.
Welcome to American television. Anyway, yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We're here, and guest starring with us today is Telltak, who is the Discord moderator.
Unfortunately for you.
So it's a case of like Telltak is a very good friend of ours. He's part of our. He's nepotism. He's part of the friend group. However, for us, we're just like, look, everyone, it's Telltak. But most of the people are like, who the fuck is this? So anyway, yeah, this is Telltak. So he's in town for once.
Yes, for the first time in, as we figured out last night, about 5 years.
Yeah, he normally lives in the north, so he's not part of this country as far as we're concerned.
Yes, unfortunately, JD, now you know what I look like. I have to kill you.
Yes, it's true. Also, my God, we need a hair light. Like Caradog's not so bad because you're a bit more sandy, but yeah, Telltak and our hair is just blending into the background. Anyway, how far up north?
The Midlands is a real place, and you're all wrong.
Well, Caradog's wrong at least, anyway. So yeah, proper north or north southerner's idea of north. Yeah, well, I guess the Midlands. It's definitely the north. We're not talking Oxford here.
It's an hour south of Sheffield, thus it's the Midlands.
How far up is Sheffield?
The edge of the north.
As in below Hadrian's Wall?
As in lower than Manchester.
I see. So this is Telltak. He's the Discord mod, and he's in town. So we were like, "Come on the show, come on the show." Anyway, so welcome in everyone to the show. I'm trying to figure out how to start the show. We've got a great show for you today. Anyway,
It will. Great.
yes, it will. Great. Anyway, yes, we're doing a chatty stream today. So a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to have a chat with Telltak because Telltak does infrastructure things, which is a subject that I don't know very much about. So I was going to pepper him with questions and be like, tell me about this, tell me about this. And he'd be like,
But
okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll have a chat about that. Telltak has an entertaining keyboard for me to sample. He's one of those. So yeah, he uses De Volmans or
Colmac.
Yeah, or Quertac or
I
something.
use Colmac DH on a split Ortholinear keyboard. Thank you very much.
Oh no! Wait, Ortholinear. That's where the keys aren't staggered.
Correct.
Oh no!
It's correct.
It's worse than I was expecting.
No, it's fully correct though. How do your fingers extend?
I feel like we've had spoilers because I haven't seen this keyboard. We were going to do the reveal so I could be like, "What is this?" And now I know that it's Ortholinear. That's just like, oh no. You know. So anyway, he uses an odd keyboard. That's the gimmick today, is odd keyboards.
It's a superior keyboard.
Brought to you by the letter K. So yeah, we've got that, and then also we're going to talk about merch today, and I have talked about. I have threatened merch many times, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at what the options are and just see what that would look like. Like, for example, if I said, heck everything, I'm just going to open up a Teespring, what does that look like? How much, if I made a shirt and put it on Teespring, how much would it cost for you guys to buy it? Could it be sold all around the world? What would shipping be? How much money would I make per shirt? Is that something that I might actually want to do? So that's kind of what we're going to look at today. So we're going to look at Teespring, we're going to look at a bunch of other stores and actually just see if any of them are viable, because there are some of these merch stores that you can use where if I put one on there, I'd get £1 per shirt sold. And it's just oh, okay, well, that's cool, I guess, So yeah, basically I want to find out what the options actually look like.
I guess the other questions and stuff as well is as to what sort of ridiculousness there is in the terms and conditions with regards to them owning your artwork.
Yeah, I
suppose.
Because
if you put a t-shirt design on there, do they then say we own this artwork and anyone can sell it?
I can't imagine a world where any of them can do that.
Why not? Why not? If that's in their terms and conditions and you agree to it, why can't they?
I'd assume
in
that's
the same way
that
as,
would be known. But
yeah, but in the same way as Twitter and Facebook and so on have any media you upload to our website, you give us an irrevocable, unexpiring license to change, use, modify, reproduce, republish, and profit from.
But yes. However, this is the classic case. This used to come up on Tumblr all the time. It comes up on Twitter now and then, where they're like, "Oh, they've taken ownership of any of your art that you upload to Twitter." It's no, they're saying that they have permission to use a modifier because they need to turn it into a thumbnail that might get featured on a discovery list on the homepage, which is technically outside of your profile. Therefore, they need permission to use it. They're not actually stealing your art.
No, I'm not saying that they are, but I'm just saying that with those rights granted, they can.
I suppose, yeah.
And it's
9 times out of 10, usually it is for purposes of use on the website or something like that. But yeah, I guess we could look at it and just have that conversation.
Because wasn't there a whole thing about in the artist circles on TikTok? No, on the Twitter. I remember what it is, where it was saying something like. People are uploading art to Twitter and then it was being put on these t-shirt sites.
Okay, yeah.
And just stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a separate thing. Side note, apparently people are saying that we're getting buffering, apparently.
Sounds like it's
buffering,
side,
modem, yeah. I'm not seeing any problems at our end.
What does it say on the Stream Health tab? On YouTube.
Yeah, OBS is fine. YouTube is saying excellent.
On the Stream Health.
Oh yeah. Stream is healthy.
Our stream is excellent.
Yeah.
So it's a YouTube issue.
Yeah, I'll just.
If South Africa doesn't have problems.
No issues at our end. Give it a refresh if you're having problems. This is what I sound like when I'm typing.
We should make you
You're
sound like
this. You're going to
this.
sound even worse with my keyboard.
I'm going to generate random passwords on this keyboard. So, yeah.
If you just want that, I've got a YubiKey.
Cool. Right, we're going to carry on. It's over the pond packet loss.
Oh, JD.
Yeah.
When I type, I sound like Alan Rickman.
Right, okay, yeah, we're going to carry on. Give it a refresh if you're having problems. What are we talking about? Because I stopped listening to you while I thought we had tech
You was talking about licensing.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
Just
okay,
purely
so
a case of just double-checking the licensing is an absolute ridiculousness.
Yes,
and also just a case of, I don't know, a more likely kind of situation is for the license to say you can't sell this somewhere else.
Oh, interesting. Exclusivity.
Yeah, and basically saying this design must stay on our platform and can never be removed, kind of thing.
Yeah, so so for example, if I put up a shirt for sale on Teespring, they may turn around and say, you're not allowed to sell this on Redbubble as well as Teespring at the same time.
Or a case of simply, you are not allowed to sell this anywhere else.
Yes.
Possibly, and obviously a case of, that becomes difficult if you put one up that is literally just your logo.
Yes.
It's just like, I'm no longer allowed to sell my logo.
And we can all have a discussion over how enforceable that might be, but on the other hand, that might mean that I get into I might get a good thing going with, say, Teespring, only for them to turn around and suddenly shut down my account because they spotted that I was selling the t-shirt elsewhere, and now I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So and you can argue all you want how fair something is, but if it ends up with your account getting shut down, it doesn't really matter at that point. You still lost your account. So, fair enough. Cool. As a side note, because I mentioned things earlier on, Firephone. Yes, I'm getting completely annihilated by invalid traffic. It's not even funny, but there's not really much I can do about it at the moment. So because everyone who's made a video about invalid traffic is basically saying the same thing, which is how awful it is, not what the actual problem is or what the potential solutions are.
Yeah.
I imagine that for now there isn't really anything that anyone could do, because it's just YouTube has said this is the way the algorithm works for the next little while.
Yeah.
Prioritize this thing.
That's it. That's the thing, is I've had loads of people who say oh, so-and-so was talking about this. Watch this video. And I go to watch that video, and it's some other YouTuber going, look at how terrible my analytics have gone. I'm like, yes, we know this. This is the problem.
Yeah.
However, and they're like, so-and-so was also talking about it. His analytics, and it's like, yes, we know. Lots of people are affected by this.
Yeah.
What's the answer? No one actually knows what the solution, what the answer is. So it's just like, the only thing we can really do, it is just a question on, we're all bleeding. It's just a question on, can we bleed for long? Can we go long enough without bleeding out, basically? That is So as I say, I'm bleeding, and I at some point, if it doesn't pick up by the end of the year, I'm going to have to spend an evening and actually crunch the numbers to figure out how long I can bleed for, in terms of how long I can stay in the shop for, kind of thing. So we're not there yet, but that's the direction this is going in, and there is a point of no return approaching. And when we get to that, that's when I'm going to have to sit down and do some serious numbers and go, is the channel stopped being sustainable? Which doesn't mean that I would stop making videos, but it would mean that the shop has to undergo another transformation.
Yeah,
which would suck balls, but if there's no money, there's no money.
I mean, it probably becomes one of you're gonna if you were to do it, you'd have to start really whoring yourself out on all of the things and all of the effort for that stuff, which is not what you like.
It's not so much that I don't like doing it. It's that mainly the issue is I don't have the energy to do it. So then I would have to sit down and figure out how to resolve that. Yeah, and it's just it's
also a case of obviously the fact of you aren't presently having sponsor spots. Yeah, and if you can get palatable sponsor spots, that will cover a lot of that cost.
Yeah, they're out there. A lot of the lack of sponsorship is a lack of me following up on it at the moment. Yeah. And for people who are still getting buffering, there's nothing we can do. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
we aren't uploading it 40 megabit or anything.
We're bashing out at 10 meg.
Yeah,
which is definitely a bit hot. But it's the same that we always broadcast at.
I mean, given
we got 17 up and we're broadcasting at 10, so we're well within the
given that OBS says that it's fine and YouTube says that it's fine, it can only be YouTube's downstream that is the issue.
Apparently it's folks across the pond. So it is.
It's America.
It's US issues apparently.
It's Verizon all over again.
Oh God.
So anyway, so that's that. So for the whole invalid traffic thing, I'm not gonna. I did consider doing a video just saying to people, yes, I'm also being hit by invalid traffic and stuff like that. But ultimately, I decided against it because I have nothing to add to the conversation other than being another YouTuber whining that their revenue is down. You know, and
I mean, it's also just a case of kind of, whilst the minis forum video seems to have done actually reasonably well, it's plateaued quite early. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. The mini, so yeah,
and also just the fact of even the MacBook I/O repair hasn't actually done well.
Yeah, this is the problem. The minis forum video that went out this week went straight to #1 and was just like, yeah, late at #1 spot, did brilliant. And you know, all arrows were green up arrows. It gave all of these are the icons that are supposed to make you feel good icons. However, when I looked at the numbers, I was like, it did approximately 10,000 views in 24 hours, which used to be the minimum baseline for any video I put out. Now, apparently, that's the best video I've done in recent history. Whereas anything I put on used to do those numbers, and a good video would be 15 to 20,000 views. So it's a case of that. And don't get me wrong, it's nice to have a video that didn't underperform per se. But you know, I did look at that, and I had to maintain perspective on that and be like, this one didn't bomb.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm viewing it more as a case of this could be a start of it stabilizing.
Fingers crossed.
Because if the next video you do does 10,000 in the first 24 hours, that suddenly means your income's not crashing through the floor. So that's at least something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it makes it back to where it was, but it just means that hopefully it stops getting worse.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're hoping simply for it to stop getting worse.
Hope you've reported to the invalid traffic issue to YouTube. Yeah, good luck with that.
Unless you're making lots of money for them or paying them lots of money, they're not really going to care.
Yeah, like when you have 1 million subscribers, you have a contact at YouTube that you can send emails to, and they'll sometimes be like, "We're doing everything we can to resolve your situation."
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have several hundred thousand to 1 million subs, you don't have a contact at YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's the email address is a black hole at google.com.
Yeah.
So
I mean it's kind of alluded to by some of Gamers Nexus's videos, because they're on their way to 2 million subscribers and they don't have a contact at Google.
They've got a partner manager though.
They have
the partner manager is the one who does we're doing everything we can.
Yeah, they have a black hole at Google.
Oh, okay, yeah.
.com.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously it was kind of a case of the comment was the comparison that GM was making to them and LTT, where LTT have a contact app, but they needed 9 million subscribers, 10 million subscribers to be at that point.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a case of not saying that it's not worth trying, but it's also being aware of the scale.
Yeah. And it's a case of just, you know, like people are saying, oh, Soaring got hit as well. It's like, everyone's being hit. It's big. This is also the reason why I don't think there's a meaningful solution at the moment, because this is a conscious decision that YouTube have made. So it's just like asking them nicely isn't.
It's probably an unforeseen consequence of
an
something.
Algorithm tweak or something. Yeah,
because they basically get from what most of the documentation is that they say prioritize this thing, like prioritize view time or whatever. So if the algorithm this time has decided this, then it may be that they don't actually have any control unless they change the
parameters.
Yeah.
Is this something that you not necessarily get directly involved with, but kind of this scale of consideration?
Not necessarily on that level, but you can do. Like a lot of larger companies very quickly start dealing with how to deal with the data at scale.
Yeah.
And that can be a lot of different options on how you want to do that, and like how you even just sourcing the information for people to do the analytics on, or for an algorithm to work on. It's a big question, because a lot of it comes down to, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, it's all cost.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you've got to say, well, we can have something that will take all of the data under the sun, but it will cost us $1 million a year, and we're not going to get that money back from it.
Yeah, because this is the other consideration, is that invalid traffic, like the 30,000 foot summary of it is that YouTube have decided that a whole bunch of traffic on YouTube was bots. basically. That seems to be the long and the short of it. They have said this was not a real person counting as a view, and have just discounted that from everyone's analytics. And so the other problem is that I can play devil's advocate here and say that as far as YouTube are concerned, that was all bot traffic, and they're like, well, we're not going to pay out ad revenue for bot traffic. And it's a case of, well, that's kind of fair enough, really. And then someone might turn around and go, well, you've just bankrupted a whole bunch of channels. And it's like, maybe, but if the money wasn't there, then the money's not there. So then it's a question of, well, how much money is YouTube making? Can they afford to be paying the channels more?
Yeah,
You know?
I guess it kind of becomes a question of, if the channel has not been botting its views, and the channel has not been attempting to influence its views via use of botting, is it correct to punish the channel by discounting those views if Google were still paid for the ads displayed on those views? If Google still received the ad revenue on that traffic, is it incorrect to withhold it?
Yeah.
Obviously, that requires a whole bunch of assumptions that
Yeah.
the traffic displayed ads, that the money was still paid for the ads, that the traffic cost was not greater than the ad cost.
Yeah.
Therefore, the creator should then get paid their
'Cause
split based off of all of that.
We also know that Google has had a lot of problems recently with their advertising, with adverts not doing what they're supposed to, people paying for ads to be displayed that were never displayed, and things like that.
Yeah.
So this might be the invalid traffic thing. May be the fallout of that situation where they've set their house in order, and suddenly everyone's realised that they're actually just making a whole lot less money than they really were, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's an argument to be made that Google have misled people into thinking there was revenue when there was not. Like, for example, I made a business decision believing that there was a revenue stream when actually there wasn't. Half of it was not real. So in which case you could say, well, Google have deceived me there. They led me to believe that there was a revenue stream that wasn't really there.
Yeah.
But you know, so this is the reason why I don't like any of the videos about this topic, because none of them seem to be asking the real questions. Most of them just seem to be bitching that they're not making any money. Yeah. And I can sympathize with that. I'm not making any money, and I'm concerned as well. However, it's a question of, you can't force someone to pay you money that they're not earning. If Google isn't making money from those ads, or isn't getting the advertisers, then they don't have any money to give the channels. So there needs to be money to share in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's the big question: is the money actually there to share?
And whilst obviously it's a semantic, is it Google? Is YouTube Google, or is YouTube Alphabet?
Good question.
Technically Alphabet, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
Alphabet became parent of all the groups,
Yeah.
didn't it? It didn't have any subgroups.
Yeah. I'm using the terms interchangeably.
Yeah. But no, that was purely a case where I was just like, right. So where would I actually need to look to see the financials for what was publicly reported for things? Do I need to look at Alphabet? Do I need to look at Google? Do I need to look at YouTube?
Look.
This is a family-friendly stream.
Male presenting.
All right, Tumblr.
That didn't need to be a big deal, but you guys made it a big deal. Also, now I'm in dark clothing. I'm gonna find a light T-shirt. You guys carry on talking amongst yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Telltak. For those who have recently joined us, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yes, I can do. So I knew these guys for far too long. Disappeared to university when I was still with a sprog, and then I now work in cloud infrastructure. Give or take. So a lot of that is kind of building and designing systems for whatever problems people might have. So for the moment, yes, you model that. For the moment, it's things like my current company is a lot of presenting media information to customers around the world, and how you can actually go through everything and make sure that it's cheap and still performant.
So it's kind of, I guess, in a way, cost optimization.
Yeah.
And kind of actual platform optimization is kind of a lot of what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's also kind of the awareness of saying, so we can go with a cheaper solution, but we lose out on these things that we can access. So recently I've been doing a comparison between how we can do event streaming. So say anytime that a user might look at a video or something like that, you want to know about it because you want to say these videos are performing and everything else.
Event as in like an event which is being streamed to the internet, or the event of someone streaming a video?
The event of someone clicking on something, of logging in, of any of that, and then you want to know this stuff, but you want to get that out in a fairly cheap way, store it cheaply, but you don't want to limit yourself to thing happens and we store it. You want to be able to say thing happens, something gets told about it, something else sometimes cares about it, and then we store it at the same time.
Yeah. So, for example, let's say you're YouTube and you want to generate analytics about what videos people are watching. For the amount of videos that are being watched on YouTube, if you stored X number of parameters, who watched it, when they watched it, what they were watching, how they were watching it, you're generating vast amounts of data from the event of the video being watched, and that is a huge amount of data that you now have to process and store. So you're looking for a way of processing that, so you have to store less kind of thing.
Either storing less, or it might be that, so a modern way of building a lot of systems is called microservices, where you've got small little things and they do one job and that's all they care about. You might have 5 of these things, which each of them want only a little bit of that data, but they all want that data that comes from that same source. So it's saying, you, which is just doing video analytics, or like view analytics, you want this little bit of data, or this one, which is ad revenue, you only care about this stuff. It might be the ad revenue then also wants metadata around, could this person be a bot? And how do you then combine that in a way that makes sense so that everyone has the right information?
And I guess as a tangent off of that, and you mentioning botting, what you do you even consider that? Do you do any sort of heuristics or anything like that to kind of go, this looks like an actual human interaction, this looks like something else, this looks like something gaming the system?
So with where I work right now, we don't, because it's purely kind of business to business. So any traffic that's coming in, if it's not legitimate, it's an employee who's doing something weird and we don't necessarily care. They're not bringing down the system.
Because the volume of it is so low.
Yeah, it's specific stuff. But a lot of cloud providers have different things for that. So it's generally called a WAF, or a web application firewall, where they'll do everything from saying, just even based on IP geolocation, they might say based off of what recent activity, based on like cookies and different shenanigans. And then you've got the levels of, like Cloudflare has recently just released their not capture, where it's then looking at saying, well, let's look at how did you get to that button? How did you do all of these other bits to say, you're safe traffic, you carry on through. Yeah. So there's a few options.
Just following that line of thought, just because interesting, you say, how did you get to that button? Is that as in a sense of what path through the website and previous websites did they take, or literally like how did the mouse moving around into that button? Yeah.
Both. So especially if it's kind of one site, or if you're going through lots of sites that all use the same provider, like Cloudflare at the front or different ones, then they can start track that and say, this looks like fairly normal patterns of data. Or it can just be the cursor suddenly was on the button when we knew it was elsewhere. Yeah. So it's clearly something has changed. And so you can kind of go through from things like that. And that's just a lot of data on the browser and just looking through that.
Yeah.
Neat.
That's interesting.
HL Lingonberry, yes, Terraform, but soon no Terraform, because HashiCorp are bad. Go HashiCorp.
I was going to say, I don't know what any of that is.
That is specifically for you, Lingonberry. So HashiCorp is a company. They have what was an open source piece of software called Terraform, which would allow me or anyone else to write some code which would define how an infrastructure would be. So I could say, I want you to have a load balancer. I want you to have these servers, and I want them to be able to talk in this way. And it would maintain what they call a state. So it knows, if I've built it, I don't need to do anything unless you've changed anything. So it's just kind of there to what's called infrastructure as code, which means you can then also pipeline it. So I can have this stored somewhere and just run automatically, and I don't care. But recently they've changed their licensing model on that, so it's no longer open source, and generally the IT community has said no, and now part of the Linux Foundation, they've opened their own fork of the most previous open source version.
Interesting. Okay, so two things of that. Just rolling back to the stuff, because you were explaining what it was. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said infrastructure as code, and you have like a load balancer and some servers and stuff, and you pipeline it. What you're implying there is that when you say a load balancer and servers, these are all virtual things. You would run a program that spins up, say, for example, virtual machines of a load balancer and some servers.
Yeah.
And it would then create those virtual machines on your cloud service.
Yeah. You say, these are my credentials. I want you to make...
Yeah.
Tell Amazon, tell Google, whatever, to make these happen. Tell me what their identifiers are. Yeah. So then I can store this in my database and always know that is correct, and I can check the config at any time and validate it.
For people who work in hardware and support, like me, for example, I might have a software image for a Windows install that is already pre-configured how I would run it, and I can just restore that disk image to a computer, start that computer up, and it will start up as I have pre-configured it. This would do that, but for a set of servers running on cloud, basically.
And
so that was previously free, and that has now gone closed.
Yeah, I mean it's still technically free, but it's not open source. Yeah, and so especially a lot of the Linux nerds are big on might as well be open source. So they've created their own fork of it. But to kind of be a little bit more specific on it, it's not just that you've got an image. You're saying effectively run this script to always do them. And you should have this server with this ID, with this config. If it's not correct, tell me why. And so then you can start to see, okay, so for some reason, something about this server changed. Do you still want it to be the changed one, or do you want it to be what you've said it should be?
Yeah.
Which then means that it makes it really good for companies to be able to have 3, 4, 5 versions of their system. Because you can say, I've already got the code, just change these 3 naming variables, and you're done.
And then you can literally run the same code again, create a newly named version.
Yeah.
And because it's obviously from the code that you've updated, it's still valid.
Yeah.
And you can store that then separately.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just want to read out. Mookie MC says, I still have no idea what Telltak does, but his voice makes me believe it is all true and possible.
That is far too accurate with how I've gotten where I have.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is a conversation we've had several times, isn't it?
Well, yeah, this is
a lot of the times in meetings. It isn't necessarily about knowing the answer. It's about making the other person think you know the answer.
So, like, this is the thing. Like, this is off the scope of what I like. I couldn't tell you I understand everything that's being said here, but the first level to understanding something is
knowing it exists.
Knowing that it exists. So what I'm hearing here is ideas and concepts and being like, yes, I could run a program that sets up a set of servers for me and stuff like that.
All it's really doing is saying, you might have a bash script or whatever to do some stuff, and it's just that on the next level where it's saying, read this config and then just follow a script based on that.
Yeah.
And it's just those kind of steps. And that's where you then end up with the pipelining I mentioned, where because you would have 5, 10 people working on this stuff, you want them all to be able to have it in one central location. And then when everyone says, yeah, those changes are good, you don't want to have to think about how do I actually make it happen.
Yeah.
You just say, everyone said yes, automatically do it.
So why would you want to spin up infrastructure like that in such an automated way? Is it because you've put out a new version of a system and you just create a new set of instances to run that? Or is this because you're setting up, say, a new client every single time?
Both and other things. So sometimes it could be that you just want to do side-by-side deployments. People tend to do that when it's perhaps a really scary thing that they're changing.
Yeah.
And like it could break everything, so you can say, well, let's just quickly go back to the old one.
Yeah.
Or it can be what people call multi-tenancy, which is multiple versions of it in different formats. The other side of it is just it's guaranteed repeatable.
Okay, yeah.
Think about how many times have you imaged a laptop or that you've serviced one, and you might have forgotten something or done things in a different order. And if that order was crucial, you don't want to risk that.
Yeah, so you can just bin it all and just say do it again, kind of thing. Yeah,
it used to be that people would be changing these servers, and it would. I've seen in some companies people that would just have like a couple of A4 pages of process printed out, and they've got to check each process. Why would you do that when you can write a script to do it and have everything built for you?
Yes. Yeah. Because I find cloud is very interesting for me because before I was working computer shops, I was contracting to my ex-boss, whom you all know, running in-joke. I was contracting, and I worked for an IT consultant, and we would go to small businesses and we would set them up with new office computers, an office server running Windows Server, and then they would have what's the email server? Exchange server, yeah. They would have an Exchange server running on there, and we would set that on. And so obviously everything was bare metal. Everything was bare metal, and you have a server and some clients and stuff. And if you wanted a website, you went to a host and you paid for hosting, and you had, you would pay for rack space. We didn't even have virtual machines yet, kind of thing. Yeah. You would pay for a server in a rack somewhere, which would be can't remember what it's called now, but anyway, everything was bare metal. And so obviously these days now, we then moved to the cloud where everything was virtual machines. So then suddenly you might have a server in the office, but that server is now running virtual machines, and it would have multiple VMs, with one VM doing Active Directory, another one doing Exchange, another one doing DHCP or network, and so on. That I was like, okay, I can understand that much, but now there isn't even a server anymore,
Well, there is. It's just someone else's server.
Yeah.
The cloud is just your stuff running on other people's machines.
Yeah.
And it's just the difference of... So the reason that people started to go to VMs is partly the imaging, which meant that it was reproducible, but more, if you've got one rack, one server in a rack is going to do far more processing power than most stuff is going to need for an office.
Absolutely.
So if you just had that running on one machine, all of them, then it's cheaper. And then you want virtual machines to separate them out a little bit, so that you've got that logical separation, and then it's a tiny step from there to someone else's server.
Following this further, just into like cloud infrastructure and AWS in general, because you have a lot of experience on what AWS is, kind of thing. Oh no, are you reading chat? Anyway. Focus.
So AWS knowledge.
So I get. So let's say that. So at this point, so I understood what virtual machines were, and I understood that AWS is cheap hosting now. So I go to AWS and I spin up an AWS instance, which is a Linux virtual machine, which I then configure to host my website. So that virtual machine, though, that's not just is that virtual machine sitting on a server in a data center somewhere?
Yes, when you're at that very specific kind of basic level of when you want an instance, a server, that is just in one place.
Yeah.
Amazon have this really cool way of setting theirs up. So when you go to a region, you have access to normally up to 3 what they call availability zones.
Yeah.
And they do this really cool thing where they literally have 3 data centers for minimum of 3 for each region, and each availability zone is replicated across them all. So I might have a server on EUS 1A, which is in London, but then another one in 1A, which is in Manchester.
Yeah.
Because just to have a lot of that redundancy. But at the core level, a server is in one location at a time.
Yeah. So there is effectively... there is one copy of your virtual machine on a server in one of those racks somewhere
at that core basic level. And then from there, that's where the first basic step of kind of cloud architecture side is about the resiliency. So you would say, okay, well, I've got one server. If that server dies, or if that region dies, if that availability zone or whatever just stops, I don't have a website anymore.
Yeah.
So what if I pay for 3 smaller servers, or even 2 slightly smaller servers in each availability zone, and load balance between them, so that a customer may go to any one of them, but I'm only at risk of losing my website if 3 different areas go offline.
And if you did that, would you access that as if it's a single machine and it just automatically applies it to all of them? Or do you now have 3 instances that you have to keep up to date with each other?
It kind of varies depending on how deep into planning it you've gone. But your customer will only ever see it as one site.
Yeah.
And then behind the scenes, normally you have to configure them differently. But because, again, it's still virtual machines, you can take an image of that and then say, run this server from this image. And so you can, what quite a few people will do is use different tools to build just a virtual machine image and then say, run this 20 times over.
And again, then we start coming down, that then leads into infrastructure as code effectively. Yeah.
Because you've said, because at that point you've got 2 lines of it. You've got your scripting side, which is just build me this server and then deploy an image. And then you've got the infrastructure side saying, take that which you've just made and run it in these places.
Interesting. So one more question then, because I've never quite understood how my website currently exists. Because my website, in all of its HTML glory, is serverless.
Yes.
So, because I was paying for the most basic AWS instance with just like 10 kilobytes of HTML code running on it, and Telltak was just like, I can make that like free. You're paying like £4 a month or something for it. I can make that just free because you like literally there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So you reconfigured my website, and now I can upload files to a place that doesn't seem to actually exist, and it just magically works. So what the hell is going on with my hosting?
So I suppose the simplest level is the same way that people started to use virtual machines on servers on a rack to share that resources. Why can't, when you've got simple websites and when it's just rendering HTML, why can't that just be another server that's shared and then you're just specifically sharing the resources per request? Because something like serving out HTML is just read a file and send it on the internet.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need a virtual machine to manage that.
Yeah, you need a virtual machine, or you need a machine somewhere to read it and do it.
Yeah.
But if someone's accessing your website once every minute, that's, or say they're using your website for 1 second in a minute, that's 59 seconds. It's just doesn't need to exist, which could be another customer getting their data served. So serverless is basically just Amazon saying, well, we can just have the resources for it and people can just pay per request and it's over cheaper.
So is it effectively now essentially just an app, let's say, that is running a pool of servers, is like every time that app gets requested, a server picks up that process, does it, and then puts it back again, kind of thing. Yeah.
For what yours is, it's even simpler than that, because it's just you've used Apache before.
Yeah.
It's just, imagine they've got a farm of big Apaches somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it's just saying, read this file.
Interesting.
Because if you've already got it running and you've got all of the other customers that are also using it, at Amazon's scale or at Google's scale, any of theirs, it's basically, it's the same as if you had 10 people running their own server, or you just run the server for them.
And everything else is just permissions that allow me to access that specific bucket to put stuff in. Yeah, it's a bucket, isn't it? Yeah.
So we use Amazon's S3, which is what they call a blob store. Is basically just a magic file server somewhere with the most insane level of SLA, service level agreement. It's something like 11 nines of uptime and availability.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which basically means in 100 years, if you had a terabyte of data, you'd lose like a megabyte.
Damn, yeah.
It's some stupid levels like that. And it's like, and it's effectively free for them again, because data storage is insanely cheap now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Interesting, yeah.
Farphone, I have actually streamed myself reading books before.
Yes.
He has.
Cool.
Maybe you should do it again, but with a better camera.
It's the same still a C920.
It was very shiny and impossible to see.
Well, yeah, but that was because it was glossy pages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
But yes, just as a side tangent off of that, imagine 30 years ago you said to someone, a bookstore in 30 years is going to run 75% of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is something that crossed my mind. We were talking about that because I saw someone was like, "Oh, AWS, Amazon Web Services."
Yeah.
It's like, yes, Amazon. You know, and it's just
The
it's still,
bookstore.
yeah, and it's like, why does Amazon do this? You know, but
Because of their bookstore. It was because of Amazon existing.
yeah,
They started to, and then because of how cheap they were and everything else, they started to outscale computing at the time.
yeah.
So, like, well, how do we deal with it ourselves?
Yeah, they were building this infrastructure to run Amazon.com,
Yeah.
the website, and they were like, well, we already have this infrastructure. What if we sold this service that we have created for ourselves to other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just went from there.
Yeah, and it was kind of their first customers were in a very similar state, which was they couldn't handle the scale of their stuff. So the first thing that they did was renting just normal server space.
Yeah.
And then they started to go from there, and then you've got all of the smarts under the sun now, to the point where what I use for a lot of my personal projects is the same serverless areas, but just running code, because it's a tiny snapshot of code that just gets run, and then they're happy.
This stuff that is done on AWS, could you do it somewhere else?
100%.
Can you do it in Azure? Can you do it in Google Cloud? Can you do it in G64 Cloud?
Mostly.
No,
So,
G46 Cloud even?
mostly. A lot of them are different. So they
but
have
like,
different offerings.
Not obviously specifically the same thing, but could you make the same function?
Mostly.
Yeah.
It depends again on the provider. Like Google has focused really heavily on a technology called Docker and Kubernetes, which they're generally probably one of the better ones for it, but they're also far less stable because they're very experimental about it.
Yeah.
Azure is really good for permissions
Yeah.
and for kind of getting your developers in places.
Yeah.
And Amazon is just, they're the oldest, so they've got a lot of this stuff. And so the others are missing out on different parts of the
But
overall ecosystem.
as a broad stroke generalization, in theory, if Amazon said tomorrow we're turning off AWS in 6 months' time, it would be possible for the internet in its present form to still exist.
Yeah, some of that is also because a lot of these companies are still actually then putting out the software they're using. So Amazon, a year or two ago, I think, released Firecracker, which is basically runs tiny VMs. So rather than having kind of
a full operating system.
rather than Hyper-V or anything else, if you just said, I want you to run this snippet of code with these binaries supporting it, and it will do that in microseconds.
Okay, yeah.
Is it like an even smaller version of Docker?
Yeah.
I was about to say, is this when you run Docker, what's the term you put things in a box? Containerized?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is this like a smaller type of containerization?
Effectively.
Where so for example, if you want to run something at scale, you don't run lots of servers you do run lots of servers, but you don't run lots of VMs for that now. The program that is doing the thing, you have that in a box that any server can run. So now you just have a lot of servers and you just say, here is the box, you run what's in the box.
Yeah.
You know, no configuration required.
It depends on what you're actually trying to do, but a lot of people will go down that route because part of the value of that is if Amazon said we're shutting down in 6 months, because you're using a standardized method of storing that in these container images, you can just go to Google, to Microsoft, to wherever, or run it on your own servers because you just say, get me the software to run this thing, which is open source and has been forever. And so it's just go from there.
Yeah, interesting. Because, like, you know, you say about, you know, what if AWS closed down? You know, that leads into a similar conversation. Because I was talking about it with someone last night, where they're a little bit tinfoil hat about it, but you know, we remarked on the internet having sort of single points of failure. because we got into the conversation because we were talking.
As far as I'm aware, the internet at large has 7 points of failure.
Yeah, because
7 people of failure.
Yeah, because
if they all go to the same furry convention at once,
because
you know it to be true.
we were talking about social media services and stuff like that, and how Mastodon is federalized. It's a federation of services, and someone said how email is also a federalized. Is that the term?
Federated.
Federated. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, it's federated, and I was like, oh yeah, it is, because anyone can run an email server as long as you follow the rules of running an email server.
Except
technically,
Except how many of the major email services actually follow any of the?
Very few. There's a really cool video from
the prime example of that as well. Is just the fact of Google. We look at Google Gmail and we go, "Isn't this all fabulous? Isn't this all wonderful?" And then you see how compliant it is with the standards, and you just kind of go,
"Yeah,
yeah,
because that's the thing." I was just like, "Oh yeah, email is federated," and then we were just like, however, because of the existence of AWS and Cloudflare, and it's a case of the internet is federated. Well, on paper it is, but in reality, not really.
Is there anyone doing Cloudflare at scale that isn't Cloudflare?
Kind of, but not really. Cloudflare is just, they've kind of really specialized on one area of modern cloud infrastructure.
Yeah.
They're starting to expand on that a little bit, and they've just had their latest birthday and shown a load of new stuff. But because they're so specialized, nowhere else really does it as well.
Yeah, and what also doesn't help is that a lot of people, I think myself included, don't really understand what Cloudflare is. I mean, really, because we all know that it's DDoS protection and stuff like that, but it's
got lots of layers.
That's just it. They're kind they're operating at a level above the ISPs. Do Cloudflare own any cables? Who owns the cables? That's the
there are
a handful of companies.
There are 5 what are called T1 networks in the world. I can't remember what the list is. I know Verizon is one of them, but I can't remember any of the other ones. But there are 5 what are called T1 networks, and they are the raw actual backbone of the internet, and then everyone buys off of them. So we go to the UK and you'd assume that BT was a T1 provider. They aren't. They're a T2 provider.
Really?
So BT in the UK is a T2 provider.
That's nuts, because I thought
BT OpenReach is a T2 provider inside the UK.
They lay the cables down the streets.
Yeah, so but they are classified as a T2 provider.
So because I suppose they're not laying the intercontinental.
They are not intercontinental fiber providers.
I see,
and stuff like that. But it's that scale.
They do the last mile, but they don't own the trunk cables that are connecting continents.
They don't own the cables that connects the UK into New York, or the cable that goes from wherever it is into Antwerp and things like that. They don't own those cables.
Yeah.
So technically they're T2.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that, and you just kind of start looking at the scale and you're just like,
yeah. So where do Cloudflare fall into this then? Do they own any cables, or are they running the software that's going through the big T1 cables?
It's a mix. So they do have servers in ISPs themselves. Netflix themselves have it as well. At a core level, that's called CDNs, Content Delivery Networks, which is one part of what they do.
Yeah, and pairing.
I'm not sure about that one. But at a core level with CDNs, it's basically saying your customers are regularly going to this website.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put our data as close as we can to your customers, which is in your servers.
Yeah.
So they effectively pay for them to have rack space.
Cache it at the ISP, so you're just it eliminates the last mile. Yeah.
Same as Netflix does it really heavily.
Yeah.
And they've got their own custom servers and racks that they actually put in for these ISPs because it's really specialized for their streaming.
Yeah.
And it's just put say they're about to release a new show, they'll just immediately have it downloaded so that they're not. But it also helps to reduce a lot of the load.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer having to go from ISP to Cloudflare or to Netflix. You're just going ISP and does it.
Yeah.
So the request effectively goes from your router back through your ISP's network and then bounces straight back again.
Yeah.
So your obviously your path length is much shorter. And also obviously the bandwidth on that path is much higher because you're not also using anyone else's links. And it also means your ISP doesn't have to pay anyone else for pairing costs and other network bandwidth costs and things like that.
So Cloudflare is running a service that checks if traffic is legitimate, and they have servers at, say, the ISP, which does the checks there and then before the request even goes to the host.
Kind of, not really. It's like they have a bunch of different services.
Yes, but also no.
Like they have a bunch of different services. One is just the CDN, kind of like Arnold said. They're effectively caching that data. GA works, but it's not amazing. But it's really cool. I saw that. But then they've got things like they're also starting to do their own cloud providing. So the same way that S3 exists, they have their own version of that, which is even cheaper from free. And then they've got their own things like you can start running small scripts on there. And they're starting to become a really big cloud provider. Their big thing is because they're putting more effort on having things closer to you, they can start doing what's called computing at edge, where right now, like say you've got a server in Amazon that's running. If I want to send a request to get processing from that, it's got to go to that server, get processed, and then come back. But what if instead you had your tiny little virtual machines that you could run on their servers, the ISP? And again, your tiny little distances to do stuff, which makes it really fast, but then you've got more complications on like data consistency and actually then making it all correct.
So if we had cloud services, as we know, cloud services operate out of data centers, and you can have many data centers. But if you had lots of small data centers in each ISP location, then you've gotten even closer to the end user, but also you've now distributed your network even more. And the more you distribute your network, the harder it is to manage it. So that's the solution they're trying to do, where they're trying to go another stage of distribution, which itself increases complexity.
Because it makes it better for users, and part of their value is they're saying we're going to manage most of that complexity for you. And so no, that's going to be too far in depth. So this is a really cool level, but it's basically saying we'll manage that and then say, okay, we're going to take that data and we can guarantee that your data will be consistent within half a second. And that kind of area.
Fair enough.
And then you've got kind of the consumer-facing technologies they're doing, like DNSS.
DNSSEC. Or are you thinking of a different one?
The DNS over HTTPS. Encrypted DNS. And VPNs. And also Warp and Warp Plus and things like that. Different technologies, it basically speeding up a client's access to the internet. So a client device, as in a mobile phone, a desktop, and making that device's connection to the wider internet faster. Not by increasing the bandwidth, but by reducing the latency on the connection. By making it so your DNS request is handled faster because it's handled closer to where you are. It's handled by a less loaded server than the ISP's one, for example. By rerouting the traffic if you're accessing stuff from the other side of the globe, by filtering it through Cloudflare servers as opposed to another highly used link and stuff like that. So it's kind of lots of bits of that is another thing they're doing, is kind of a consumer-facing thing for you to stick on your phone.
And then at the absolute core level, there is just one of their first offerings, which was the DDoS protection, why they got known. And what's really cool, they have a free version of that for any charities. If you're a charity, you can just register and say help. And they'll have someone on the phone with you fairly quickly, and you're just protected, because they're just saying, because we can identify a lot of this fake traffic, we can just block it from going any further. And so we're just going to do quick inspection, say, no, you're fake, and block it.
Okay,
and yes, it's very impressive. And I particularly I can't remember who it was, but one of the people who's hung up at Cloudflare, just one of their comments about, their charity thing, and just every now and then when they get a paid for customer, which is unfavourable, and they're just like, I'm terribly sorry, but we have ended your service. By the way, here is a nice donation.
I live down here now.
Do you want to swap?
No, it's fine. I thought I could manage the squeaky chair. It's not that the chair is uncomfortable, it's that it creaks. And you sitting on the creaky chair will still creak.
Yeah.
And it's annoying me, so I can't imagine how much it's annoying everyone else. I did have someone the other day who came in and was just like, I liked the creaky chair, it's comforting. And I'm like, it does not comfort me. So.
You're welcome to it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a middle finger for a second.
No, it is. I think it's supposed to be a submarine.
It looks like a boat on its side.
Yeah.
Or a shovel.
That tracks, because this is about this is Conswag from something that I went to, and they're about container inspection.
I see.
So the same way that
it's an octopus inspecting a container.
Yes.
See what's inside. I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they've got a whole thing where, same as if you had a server right now, or like where you have antivirus on machines, you want to be able to prove that what you're running isn't infected.
Oh, yeah.
But containers, because they're more ephemeral, because of everything else, it's harder to do that.
Yes.
So people are building software to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny how there's entire industries within cloud computing isn't, or is cloud computing the way to talk about it?
Yeah, for now.
Sure, yeah.
It's at least close enough.
Yeah.
Until you go into weird specifics.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an industry that, as per this conversation, I have very little knowledge about. And now we understand that there are industries within that industry that you didn't realise needed to exist, you know, and stuff like that.
You saying about that, I got a pop-up on my phone recently. It was just like, remember when you went to CloudSec?
Jesus. For the audience,
I didn't go to CloudSec.
No,
so.
I got invited to a conference.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is a thing that Telltak knows about. I will bring Telltak along. He will be my knowledgeable. Person there. And it's just like signed up, and yes,
that was an event.
That was the first conference. I still reference the what is negligence talk from it.
There's quite
regularly.
a few, yeah.
Because there was a talk basically sort of describing what was negligence and what was acceptable risk in kind of all of that. And when just because you are doing something that is industry standard, you could still be negligent because you know of a better system of a better system and a better way of doing it, and the cost of implementation is lower than the cost of failure.
Yeah.
And the cost of failure is death or something like that sort of thing. And it was saying all of those things. So it's just kind of, demonstrating all of that and kind of I can't remember what those graphs are called, where you've got like a line like this and a line like this, and you've got an area here and there. And
any economy bros in the chat will be able to tell us.
Yeah, but just
I can't know.
These things.
Yeah. There's a really good book on it, How to Measure Anything in Cybersecurity Risk, where he talks a lot about it, especially on like the Bayesian thinking of it.
That's cool. I should look at that because it's shockingly relevant.
Yeah. And it's really easy to then just say
but
percentages of risk and cost.
It's risk and liability are a thing that too few people think about.
Yes. Yeah.
And also just a case of kind of the fact of just because it is the industry standard way of doing it, or just because it's the way it's always been done, does not make it correct, does not make it good, and does not make it valid.
Yeah, I mean, you could equate that to just following orders.
Yeah.
Couldn't you?
Yeah.
If you say sort of, well, this is the industry standard, I'm just following the industry standard. If you know that the industry standard is bad and is creating a serious risk to something, if you're aware of that, you are culpable at that point.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Because you knew that there was a better way of doing this.
And you knew that the better way of doing it was a lower cost or lower risk than the industry standard way of doing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that thing of, everyone has an obligation to make things safer.
Yeah. Lingonberry is right there as well. The part of the problem with cloud is because it's just give a credit card and you can start doing stuff. There are lots of people that will just make servers and forget about them, or make servers with a hard drive way bigger than they need, and companies are going to charge you for that hard drive space. So there are companies that now will literally exist and will just save you money and charge you a percentage of the money they've saved by making your images smaller, by saying, here's servers that haven't even had any traffic for the last year, turn it off. And that's an entire industry just in cost saving that exists.
Yeah, I kind of loosely remember a story about you saying something about this way back at the beginning of when you were starting, and you're just kind of like, here was a whole bunch of servers which I realised that we were massively underutilizing, so we completely refactored everything, and suddenly our costs went to 50%.
Yeah, there's one where at my previous job, there was a way of doing some logging that exists, which is kind of user actual access, kind of internally, like developers.
I'm getting cut, so I'm still listening.
Yep. Which then allows you to just have that basic level of, this is what our developers have done. The normal way of doing that, of having that logging exist, is cheap for short-term storage, but massively balloons in cost. Or you can press like 2 buttons, and we saved $1 million a month by pressing 2 buttons.
Gosh. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm wondering how far into a conversation we've gone to be confusing people yet.
I like the fact that JD's just like, audit is in the same spot recently. Also, need to be really sober to understand this conversation.
This is JD right now. Focus. So yeah.
This is the problem that these guys have had any time that I've gone home, even while I was kind of studying and everything else, is you can just go too far in depth really quickly.
That's the thing. Is like part of me. This is why it was in, because when you arrived earlier on, I said and I did I guess you could call it a briefing, because I like to do this anytime. Well, we do it when we're planning something, but where we'll do a pre-show brief where we basically say, okay, we're going to do the show, we're going to talk about this, and then we'll do this, and then if there's time, we'll do this kind of thing. Because that, just so everyone is an understanding on what direction we are trying to keep the show going in, And so when we did the brief earlier on, I said, okay, well, we'll get you on, and we'll, because you're here, I want to talk about what's relevant to you and what you do. And I was like, however, so I want to ask you some questions about what you do, but I'm not sure what questions to ask, because I don't know enough to know what to ask.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, it's just like I say, like a lot of this goes over my head, but at the same time, I want to expose myself to this so I can begin to understand it.
Yeah.
And so, like, there might be a lot of people that, like, I guarantee there's going to be someone in the chat that's just like, this was boring kind of thing. I'm like, okay, but hopefully for a lot of other people, even if you didn't fully understand that conversation, you were exposed to new ideas and concepts that you probably knew were a thing that existed, but now you've heard someone talk about them and the kind of challenges and what kind of problems they're trying to solve.
I mean, as it is, most, like, probably half of my day when I'm not specifically working on stuff is still looking at new stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to actually use it, but to then know, oh, okay, there's this one thing, this really niche problem. Hang on, I looked at something 2 months ago that had something similar. Yeah. I can probably use that, and it's going to be really quick for us to get it working.
To ask the kind of corporate questions, I guess, it's kind of a case of, when do you think it's worth a company looking at this? What kind of scale do they really need to be at? What kind of questions does someone need to be asking of, is cloud a real solution?
It depends what kind of business you are. If you're an insurance broker, if you're something else, maybe it's worth it for you to not have to care about having machines in your office.
Yeah,
but it's probably not.
So it's kind of a case of, there are two ways of looking at it. From the point of view of maintaining stuff, is it worth moving in this direction to stopping you needing to physically maintain stuff? And from the point of view of kind of, this is a better way of doing it because of scaling.
Generally, for most people, just maintenance level, it's never going to be worth it, because raw servers in Amazon, in all of them, are more expensive than having a rack in an office. It will always be more expensive. That's half the point. But when you're starting to say actually running a business in terms of code or websites that's doing it, that's when it's meaningful up until like 1 million or so users. And then the cost has this weird bump where for the next few million, it's better for you to have it back on servers and then again it becomes better to have it in the cloud.
Oh, interesting.
Because of how the cost of things scales.
Yeah.
It's like that million onwards, you're having to technically over provision.
Yeah.
Just because that's going to happen, but
and
you're not really using it.
Once you're at that level, suddenly enterprise grade servers are now viable in terms of cost. So and those have got the horsepower to do what you need them to.
It's
whereas
effectively
below that, the actual physical servers that you would need don't have the horsepower, so you may as well put it in the cloud. And then suddenly you move up to the point where the servers that you need are now financially viable, and then you get beyond those to the point where you go back to the cloud. It's
actually less about the server cost than it is paying for someone to do it.
Yeah.
Because what you get with all of the cloud providers is basically you're paying for someone to manage the servers for you.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah,
but then
you don't need to clean out the servers. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get this plateau where it's actually okay. We can spend 30 grand for an entry level person, and they can just run the servers.
Yeah,
and that's going to be cheaper than the extra cost. So you get these spots where it can be worth it.
Yeah, I think it's as you're saying, kind of that thing of part of it is that operational cost of just not having to consider it, of not having to manage it, of effectively losing a member of staff.
Yeah,
because you don't need someone whose job it is to physically maintain physical hardware.
Yeah,
that is amortized. There we go. Into the cost of that request costs a penny, but a part of that penny cost is the maintenance.
Yeah,
which I don't have to pay £30,000 for. But then I need to get to a number of requests where actually I'm now paying more than one penny for the maintenance.
Yeah,
kind of thing, and it's those consider. That's how you get that plateau.
Yeah, it's very much around that area.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Cider.
Yes, right. Firstly, I definitely need a drink, and so secondly, we're about an hour in, so I vote let's shift gear and talk about merch.
Yes.
Because it's like this is super interesting, and part of me would be like, it would be really cool just to say, you know what, go to those new levels, go to the levels that you think are interesting.
Go all the way deep on the rabbit holes, but we will lose too many people.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the problems is I think most of our audience most of our audience isn't at the level to understand that. But I don't know, like, I don't. Anyone who's watching the VOD or something, stick a comment in if you think this kind of thing is interesting, because we have access to a person who does this, and we can. I'm sure he can wax lyrical about it if you want. So,
anytime. Yeah, probably too much.
And it's also the case of, obviously we could do a remote one at some point. We could all just hop.
Yeah, definitely.
We could hop in the Discord and do something on there.
Yeah, definitely.
And at that point, if there are people in the comments that really have a problem they want to solve, we can probably whiteboard it. Depending on stuff, we can figure out a solution.
Yeah. And actually have sort of live examples of stuff which might actually make things make more sense.
Cool.
So it sounds like a good idea. So what are we doing for cider?
Right. Well, I'm going to use the bathroom. Make of that what you will.
Please leave the mugs on the table. Yes. Are we going to take the stuff and things that George brought?
We've got options. So I brought some lilies, which is really good ciders nearby.
I was going to say, you and your brother have banged on about lilies many times, so I wish to sample the lilies.
Do you want the Gladiator, which is the 8% cider, or the Perry, which is like a 6%?
I mean, if it's cool with you guys, I'd like to try a bit of everything. Hence why I got the cups, even though we've got glasses.
Yeah.
So I'll take a half or a third of something. I'll try the Gladiator for obvious reasons.
Yes.
So bust that out. I will return in a moment.
I will thug you.
I shall sit for a second, so someone is still on stream, facing the correct way.
You have been thugged.
I have truly been thugged. Pre-revenue, some can, but never. But people don't put RGB on server racks because, if nothing else, it's more heat.
In a way, I'm slightly surprised by that, just in the sense of kind of having, like, status displayed.
I mean, There'll sometimes be some, but most of the time, no one is.
But no one's actually physically looking at the server.
You're rarely
because
you're
it'll
rarely
be
walking
over
down.
the IPMI.
Yeah, and also it's a case of normally you'll rarely be going down the hot aisles anyway. So why would you ever look at it? And on top of it, so you might have some indicator LEDs, but you'll never have full RGB because as little heat as LEDs can generate, that's still a lot of extra heat to deal with. No, thank you.
It's Graham Cider.
I know. No, thank you. Firephone, I saw that earlier. Proxmox, I suppose, could be considered like a cheap version of it, but the problem is that the value that Amazon and that all of these providers give is around the managed service side. So options would be something like OpenStack, which does a lot of some of the basic levels that are the same. We can still see your hair.
No, you can't.
So you'd be.
But we can.
If you were looking for an Amazon alternative at home, it would be something like OpenStack. But most of the time, if you're doing.
What's this for? Containering.
So if you wanted to run your own version at home.
Oh, what? Of AWS?
Yeah. So that's somewhere you might look at. But,
so why would I not run Firecracker if that's what AWS does?
So they
or
run
is it just because complication.
They run Firecracker for a specific subset of services when those services have been designed for in a very specific limited fashion. Like you have to build them in one way, and that's the only option.
Oh, I see. So you have to build it in the Firecracker way for it to be firecrackable.
Yes, and then
to be fireable, crackable.
For it to
Lightable.
Be crackers. But interestingly,
I'm not sure if that's a real term or not.
I don't know. But for the Linux nerds out there, someone has recently gotten not Red Hat. A flavour of Linux to be able to work in Firecracker and boot in less than a second, but you can't really use it for anything else.
But is that a full distro?
A modified full distro, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
You can't do anything meaningful with it, but it works.
So it's not really full.
Or,
It's
as
not
in,
even really partial.
so part of the thing with Firecracker is that you have 128 meg of RAM up to 10 gig. And that's very specific limits.
Interesting.
But like, even if it's not doing useful work, if it comes up in a second, that still means that I guess that means that you're within a shout of having something that can do useful work come up within 5 seconds.
It's for them. It's very much just a proof of concept of yes, I've done it.
Yeah.
But if you're really looking for that performance, you look at lower level programming languages that you compile down into tiny little things that will start up in microseconds. So this is the Perry.
Oh, it's Beeston.
Yes. I was only slightly wrong, 6.8%.
Have you had the other Perry?
Yes, I tried a little bit earlier. I went up there with Dad to the shop.
Sparkling, medium sweet Perry, oozing with subtle flavours. Fresh tasting pear flavour and a wonderful pear aroma.
Not sponsored, but if they want to, they should.
Bee sting with sweetener. Contains sulfites for freshness. Gluten free. Terms and conditions may apply. Cool.
Ciders. I'm gonna thog.
You're gonna do it.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna do
my
a
first
thog.
thog.
You know?
Can I thog it?
Yes, he can.
It has been thogged.
Excellent.
This is a situation.
Yes, that's how I would describe it.
That exists.
Good.
I shall pour out some Gladiator into. Do you want to start with the Gladiator or the Beasting?
I'll start with the Gladiator. So give me a third or something.
Gladiator in the G cup. And Beasting in the B cup.
Contender, you will go on my first whistle. Gladiator, you will go on my second whistle. Hands up in the chat who knows what I'm talking about.
And you
right.
you know it's real cider because there's bits in it.
Well, that just means it's cloudy.
Yeah, real.
Are you implying that
One of those is small.
filtered cider isn't real cider?
Yes. You live in the southwest.
You live in the Dorset.
Okay, fair enough. G.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, god, I've forgotten how sweet it was.
Mm.
Wow.
Well, it is 8.5%.
Yeah, but how sweet.
Yeah.
Well, because it's high percentage.
Yeah.
It will be.
Hmm. That's really dangerous because that tastes like apple juice.
Mm.
That literally tastes like apple
It's
juice.
so good.
What's even worse is they also have fruit flavoured ciders, like rhubarb.
Oh yeah,
and
rhubarb.
mango.
I really like stuff. There's a cider that I used to be able to get it in Tesco, but then they stopped doing it. You know Old Rosie?
Yeah.
Old Rosie have a spin-off brand called Rosie's Pig.
Yes.
Where they do just weird stuff. And Rosie's Pig had a rhubarb flavour that I really liked. You could get it in 330ml cans, which I like.
Rhubarb and custard.
I don't think it was and custard.
Yeah, there was rhubarb and custard cans as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, just the rhubarb one at any rate. I used to like buying those because, again, you could just have a 330ml can, which means you weren't committing to a pint of it. It was a fun cider to have, you know. But yeah, can't find it anymore. Yeah.
Lily's is based in Frome in Somerset, so it's really local to you anyway.
We forgot to cheers and clang your cups together. Well, okay, cheers.
Because we're not uncouth.
Cheers.
But also, if Catriona's in the chat, we can't look at each other's eyes, which is really important. So,
are we not allowed to look at each other's eyes?
No. When Germans drink,
if
you cheers, you're supposed to drink and look at each other's eyes.
Okay, well, Caradog doesn't want to be part of this, so we'll do it then. I haven't done that for about 2 years.
You're welcome.
God damn it. Where is that even from again? Was that Unagi?
No. That's Unagi.
Yeah.
That was just them insulting each other or something.
Okay, yeah. All right. I see. Love is in the air.
So about that merch.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Did you plug in the things?
I have plugged in things. It is waking up. Good. Right. Caradog and I have swapped sides, and I'm not sure why. Unless Caradog is just gonna steer for now.
Caradog was just existing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. You need to go HDMI. Double click on that and reselect the X1.
Hello.
Wait, that's not a capture.
There we go. That's a capture. Cool. Right. Do you want to swap place again, Caradog, or are you just gonna, or are you directing?
I will shuffle again.
Okay then.
I was only over here because I was thogging.
I see. I too need to move to the left of Thog. Right.
I feel like I missed a trick by not bringing one.
Yeah.
Adopt a wide stance for thogging.
Also, we need to look at the stupid keyboard.
Yes. I also have to be back in Gil by 7 for what it's worth.
Okay. Okay. Right. How long does it take you to get? Do you have a lift?
I was planning on busing because I thought we were going to be ending early because I forgot. But I'll look in a second and figure something out.
Okay. Yeah.
We may end up having to disappear early, or I may have to kick someone out.
Okay.
But I'll check while you brought the keyboard.
I was going to say, yeah, let's do the keyboard then, because after that, if you've got to crash out, then you can crash out. Yeah.
Really should have moved everything in the middle, but so I don't know exactly how to reveal it to you in one go without it being.
Let's we'll shuffle the lilies along a little bit. And I'm going to put this here. I'm going to swing this across and go to bench camera face. Caradog's making a heckin' mess.
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm going to look away, position it, and tell me when you're positioned.
Do you want it connected and able to use?
Yes.
Oh no, my cable's there.
This feels like an expedient effort. I should probably actually put it roughly in camera. I'll put it on this laptop.
We can adjust camera if needed.
Yeah. I'll put it on the laptop rather than faffing a cable elsewhere.
I feel like I can't bear to watch.
And I think I can even do it on this side. It exists.
Okay. It's RGB. That's a good start. Where are the letters?
Who needs letters?
Okay. Right.
This is also still in Cormac right now. So actually, if we do that...
My God. He's entering the Matrix,
Oh
everyone.
my God, I can't even type right now.
This was your moment.
There it is.
In fairness, you're on an unfamiliar stool, on an unfamiliar desk, in an unfamiliar stance. So it wouldn't. It's okay if you can't perform.
I'm just going to do it here because it's just embarrassing right now. That is the worst demo of it. Bugger off. Via. So this is one of the ways that you can configure this. There's like 4 different ways you can program it.
Oh, I forgot to put them on this laptop. Yeah, I was going to say
Well,
the profiles. They're on the flash drive that I've got to hand. Let me just
Which
remember it.
is still plugged in, isn't it?
No, we got unplugged.
Yeah. Oh, I put it over here. Here it is. Yeah, because I changed my mind last minute what we were going to do. So
there we go. So this shows you the current keyboard layout.
So is this grabbing? So let's go to capture with face cam. Can we have capture with bench? Yeah. Let me just rotate. So you've just gone to this website.
Yeah.
So does that automatically find the keyboard that's connected?
Yes. So,
that's neat. So that's quick and easy.
There's a few different ways. If you're going the like really old school lowest way, you just use something like QMK, which I can't remember what it stands for, which you literally compile down a version and flash it on. But they've also added support for VIA, which is basically just you add a flag when you compile, which then lets it be discovered and lets you be able to reprogram it on the fly. So on here, for example, we can go over it, click on a thing, and just change it.
Ah, neat.
And now, if we were to type, which we can go over here, we'll see that that is now a V.
Oh yeah, cool.
And yeah, it just lets you do it on the fly.
Yeah.
You have some limitations, like you see, it's only got 4 layers here.
Yeah. Only 4. Yeah.
Well, in theory, you can have infinite-ish, which then so layers basically it's the same way that your caps lock is a layer key, or function keys on smaller keyboards are the same.
And it's storing the profiles in hardware.
Yes, yeah. It's all programmed down.
That's kind of cool because one of the reasons why I don't like super exotic keyboards is like as soon as someone goes, oh, I've got to load my profiles and stuff like that. I'm like, what? I've got to install the software for my keyboard.
Yeah, that's one thing that I like.
In hardware, and you just go to this app that is web based, so you don't need to install it. You didn't need to install anything, and now you're just configuring it.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very accessible.
And then you get the next level where, because it's just storing this as data. Hang on, is this an old version? This is an old version of VIA.
See, I was already confused because when people say VIA to me, I think VIA is in the old chipset manufacturer. And I'm like, what the hell are they doing here?
So
I think you'll find that VIA.
I see.
Because this is just a layout, you can just save a document and be able to export it, which is what I've done.
The profiles that you gave me, that'll be on new volume D.
So from there, we can instead just load a QWERTY one, and now it's QWERTY.
Neat. That's
and
cool.
we can unplug it and do everything. The thing that
I don't suppose it has multiple profile storage on it, does it?
No.
That's a shame.
Generally, you're very much limited by the memory of the chip that's on there.
Yeah.
But what is pretty cool is this. So the one connecting to the piece to your PC can be on either side.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's just got USB on either side.
Yep. Type-C connector.
And then the other thing is you can just unplug that side and still have that bit work.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if for whatever reason you want to just buy one and have it as like a macro keyboard.
Yeah, I was going to say you could use that as a macro, like you could use it as like a gaming
you can set
controller type thing. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Yeah.
Or with layers, you could have it be a full keyboard.
So, what about the knobs? What can you do with those? So that's doing volume.
Yeah, by default, I've got them set up that the right one is volume up and down, the left one is page up and page down.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you can also hit that one down for home, and this one down for end.
That's cool. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah,
and then you can start playing around.
Yeah, I liked the twiddling knobs. Okay, so first, so let's. We need what's the website for a
10
type?
fat fingers.
10 fat fingers. Okay, 10 fat fingers.
You're getting prompted to customize. Steve, if I remember, this cost me about £270.
Fast.
Yes, but they made it. They assembled it. I could get it cheaper if I'd wanted to make it, but I couldn't be bothered. So,
had they got a non-split version of this?
No.
Okay.
There are other places that do similar stuff, but this specific one.
Yeah, I want to build a custom keyboard that's cool at some point.
I've only sent you 1,000 links.
Ten fast fingers. Okay. Sorry, continue what you were saying.
Yeah. So they only do this one, but lots of other
Control
companies do
test
them.
first. Yeah.
It's QWERTY. Oh, you're going to do.
Yeah, I'm going to do a control test first.
Fire, yes. I use this every day for work. I work from home, so I've put things like this is where me putting money in because I'm doing it 8 hours a day. So it becomes things like this is in theory better for RSI and everything. So it's meaningful for me at that point.
Have you got a special super customized mouse as well to go with it?
No, I've got the G600 Lightspeed. No, not G600. 502?
Ah, okay. Oh, you stopped using a G600.
I mean, I still have it.
Because you decided that you no longer wanted to Eve just from the mouse.
Sometimes you still can. But the 502's got everything that I care
I'm just
about.
being lodging.
Yeah, exactly. It's so in terms of mouse, I do have some virtual mouse software, but I'm not really good with it yet. But because of... So yeah, you totally can 3D print stuff like this and get the cut, but I just couldn't be bothered to do it. But the way that I have it set up at my home is these are far apart with a mouse mat here and my mouse is in the middle, which means that I can just do whatever in any order and everything is comfy and split apart.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Right, I'm going to swap spaces with you and run that test one more time with a more comfortable sitting position because awkwardly I did 62 words per minute on an unfamiliar keyboard. I want to check if I can do if I can do better than that if I actually assume the position.
With that keyboard, with this keyboard in Combat DH, I end up at about 90 words a minute.
Interesting. What's considered fast?
I think 60 is technically fast.
Oh, okay. So I didn't actually. That wasn't too bad
as far as I'm
from me.
aware, based off of.
Also, I'm cheating because this is a laptop keyboard, so I can see the keys in my periphery, which I consider to be cheating.
As far as I'm aware, 60% is 60 words a minute is considered faster than 50% of the population.
So yeah, 60 is above average.
Yeah.
And yeah, you end up in that kind of position.
Yeah.
It depends, Si, on what typing job you're actually doing, because half of my time I'm thinking about something and then typing really quick and then thinking and doing it. But as long as you can type at the speed of your thought, you're good enough.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that the typing at the speed of thought is very different to doing one of these tests because these are random words I'm typing in, not any kind of coherent sentence, which makes it a lot harder. Whereas when I know, if I'm typing in a chat, for example, and I know what's coming up, I'm anticipating kind of thing. But obviously, random words are the only fair test.
Yeah, it's also a case of it's very difficult to expect someone to come up with a minute's worth of words.
Yeah. 61 again. Yeah, so 61 seems to be about par. If I was at home at my desk on a mechanical keyboard, I think I would get higher than that. But okay, fine. So let's see what I can achieve with the matrix.
The key thing is you want it to basically be, if you have your arms at your sides as if you were comfortably sitting at a desk with your hands resting, you want them to be that far apart.
I'm going to raise the mic because I'm occluding it.
I'm going to raise the mic. Instantly lowers mic.
Here we go. The mic has to stick up just so the laptop isn't occluding it. So now I can push the laptop back. So, okay. So the keys don't have any markings on them.
Correct.
So I need to actually ask you where the side of the keyboard is. So hold on. I'm just.
It's going to have to be driving.
Have you missed the bus or something?
Yeah, the next bus is like 15 hours to take.
Oh, I see. When was the last bus?
No idea.
Oh, okay, fine. Just in case it was like, oh, did you just miss it by a minute, or did you miss it an hour ago?
I can chat while we do it. So we can again look at that to show you. So,
oh yeah, okay. So I need to start from there for right.
Across.
Where's
this
WA?
is your queue? This is your queue.
That's Q. Yeah. So there's WAST. Okay, yeah. WAST.
It can take a little while to get used to just.
See, the problem is
keyboard.
I'm not used to using a blank keyboard, let alone a split blank keyboard. I'm just. Okay, right. Typing test. Here we go. I'm going to try and get out a couple of words. Oh no. Okay, right. I might glance up at the laptop keyboard just so I can remind myself where a letter is. Right.
Why are you going that far across? Oh yeah.
I don't know, Telltak. I wouldn't know. Is it there? Nope. No, keyboard, help me. T, is it there? Family. I did it. Which one is space? Is it just that one, or is it like any of the bottom ones?
I think with their default, also the left hand far right works.
Here. T. There it is. I found it.
This isn't about selling it right now, Steve. This is just humiliating Graham right now.
Yes. Boy. What the hell? So that is space, but that isn't space. Am I?
Correct. I've set it to space. No, I've got it. No, I only have the right hand space for me as well.
But then on the other hand, that's kind of a me problem because I will hit the space bar intermittently with my right or my left hand, and I understand that's a typing sin.
You are supposed to hit it with whichever hand you did not type the last letter with.
Ah. Okay.
So if you typed a right hand letter, you're supposed to space with the left, and if you hit if you type a left hand word, you're supposed to do it with the right. That's the rule.
All right. Caradog, lay it on me. I'm gonna try some of the bee sting while Caradog shows us how it's done.
Oh, I will be impressed if I get a word.
You got to beat 4.
Yeah. So, Greg, in terms of just going from normal keyboard to normal QWERTY split, would take you probably a couple of hours. It's actually fairly quick for someone to get learnt to that. To then go, no, it's just not. Oh, it has frozen.
Is this the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that USB cable is dodgy, so we'll need to send it back.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we're using a new cable on the capture card that is dodgy.
It would
so
help if I use the right one. Is it that one?
Right. You want click cancel, then HDMI. Yeah, then just deactivate, reactivate, or that should also do it.
Oh.
Deactivate, reactivate.
Oh, I don't like backspace being there. I want it there.
Oh, is it actually fallen over? Oh my god. Okay,
I'll over.
Oh, that's the wrong USB. Yep. It's that computer.
Yes.
So J, escape is in your normal top left. This current layout is very much just emulating a normal one, but split.
Oh, interesting. Oh, no, it is coming on. Why?
Oh, where is space?
RGB.
The spacing is not quite what I'm expecting. The ortholinear is messing me.
Yeah, to be fair, you're jumping on multiple differences.
No, fuck me.
I think you've already beaten me, so... Yes, quickly. The timer is going down.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
That's 21. That's a lot higher than I got. But you can already type on a blank keyboard, though, can't you? It's it's the Ortholinear that was catching you.
It's the UI. And I keep messing me on that finger movement.
Yeah, so there's a few reasons why that stuff happens. So Ortholinear is in theory good because if you actually stretch your fingers out, they don't stretch in a stagger. So in theory, if you've got it the right way around, then you're opening and closing your fingers in a normal line and not having to move them around. And then the split is just there because in theory, the best place for your arms is spread apart. Effectively, yeah, Mookie, it's a couple of different reasons why you might want that.
Performance under pressure.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was all over the place on that.
Yeah, the error rate was slowing you down the most there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just cannot type on this keyboard.
I was going to say I didn't feel good typing.
I hate this keyboard.
I also didn't like that keyboard. Part of me is, you know what? Just
if you got a different,
I was
try it.
I'm going to grab a mechanical.
Yeah, Mookie, you totally can. I just went for the cheapest option, especially where I knew that I was going to be changing which letters were where. And so at that point, I was just like, I'm going to get blank because then if I change letters, I don't have to care about them when I change them. What's also nice is you can actually remove the individual keys from it as well. It's all hot swappable.
Yeah. See, I want to buy a kit type keyboard like this, but normal, and have it fully kit form. So I've got to build the entire thing myself just for the fun of it. That's the thing I want to do at some point.
I've sent you a link. I've sent you several links.
You have. Maybe one day I'll look at them.
So Duma, part of it was, again, if I was already going down into this whole ergonomic side, I might as well go for the more ergonomic keyboard styles, which is something like Cormac DH, which I'm using there, and everything else.
Yeah, if I swap to an Ortholinear like that, I would absolutely swap to Cormac as well.
I don't know Just Split, Alice, JD. Chuck a link in or something and I'll take a look.
Right, switching to... This is my Royal Kludge RK100, which is my daily on the bench. Oh god, I've got to adjust to this now. Oh, rude, capital. Now comes the watch people do the typing thing show.
So about the keyboards. So I mean, I don't know how visible it is actually on the camera, but the same how that keyboard has got two layers, where you can see it's got the other characters on the sides underneath on the sides of each one. It's effectively the same thing as that one having multiple layers. It's just programmable side of it.
54. Oh man, I think it's just the test of random words. I feel slower. Like when I know what I'm typing, like if I just start. Oh my god.
It's also, there's lots of things that come into it. It's more just, how does it feel, isn't it? So Mookie, you can split them. I kind of quickly showed it earlier. You can have them running split differently and run one independently. I tend to just have them together and apart. That's about as far as it goes.
I burnt my keyboard. Yeah, I have.
Probably.
Yeah. I've obviously just... I'm like, how on earth have I touched the soldering iron to my spacebar at some point?
I don't know if we can actually get in focus. See on there, this keyboard has a separate layer, and you can just kind of program it according to that instead.
I would want a bump on the F and J on these,
Yeah.
and then I could do it completely blank.
Yeah, it's very much because when I got the keys, I was just going for the cheapest blanks that I could find.
Absolutely.
You could totally just etch one in, and it would probably be valid.
Customize stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever the equivalent of F and J would be in Colmag. What is the equivalent? What is index?
I don't know. I just index. I just do it by feel now.
Yeah.
I just know it.
Yeah.
I don't even see the code anymore. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead. Matthew says, Shot Graham doesn't fully touch that. No, I have always been a typing noob. I look at the keys and I don't have any real technique. I've just become very fast at typing like an idiot, basically. Oh, he's going in try-hard mode now. Yeah,
Oh my god.
He's lost
it's
it.
still rough. I think it's because on these stools the desk is too low.
I don't like...
There is
Also,
a lot
just the keys feel so wrong.
Yeah, the Royal Kludge. This has got Cherry MX Browns in it for the record.
No. Yes. Something feels very wrong with this, and I don't know what it is.
I think it's the typing position because I felt really off as well.
No, I don't know where I normally type, but yeah.
Yeah, certainly for the stool height, the desk is too low.
Yeah.
That much is certain.
I mean, when you start going into the whole ergonomics of it, in theory, you want your arms to be flat when you're typing.
Yeah.
So this is low compared to the stools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Pre-revenue says, I think Kludge is a terrible name for a keyboard. I agree. However,
especially one's Royal Kludge.
Yeah, I 100% agree. However, it's cheap, like the budgie. So
It's cheap, like the Graham.
yes. Two guys talking excuses.
No, I just cannot type on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's wild because, obviously I spend a large amount of every day typing. And my error rate is not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They are pull-up. You can
cool.
remove them as well. The full keys.
Yes. I do have a switch puller to hand, but
Yeah.
you've seen one. You've seen him once.
But yeah.
I like the
and how much
construction.
did you say these
I
were?
think it was about 270 ship. It was assembled and shipped from America. You can get, I think, like £100 discount if you were to assemble everything yourself.
That's a good discount. Yeah.
Something like that.
Because I was going to say it's surprising how often. It's quite surprising how assembly isn't that expensive when buying stuff like this.
Yeah, it very quickly brings it down.
They need to be pitched.
Yeah, so this is...
I also struggle typing flat and need a shocking
This is
degree
why
of angle.
this exists for it. So they've got it so that you can literally just chuck screws in with a couple of bolts and you can start tenting it however you like it to be.
Yeah, because also, obviously, the other thing as well is you can have it like that.
Yeah,
so it's hit
you can
angle.
and if you really want, you can have the stupidly high degree of tenting that people have.
And you can do... I imagine you could build some sort of thing to do that.
Yeah, and given this is
you can do
literally
the side typing.
this is just a 3D printed thing, or it may not be 3D printed.
No, it's just sheet acrylic.
But you could technically just 3D print something if you wanted.
Yeah, it's laser cut acrylic, which would make the most sense.
And you just screw it through.
I don't think it is laser cut.
No,
Not the black.
Oh yeah, no.
Which is weird that you laser cut part of it, but not the other part.
Might be. Anyway, it's shit.
Yeah.
Still, it's cool. Yeah, I like the concept of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reset. Yes, handy.
Yeah. So that you can program a reset, But I was recently screwing around with programming a totally different keyboard layout that then meant I couldn't use VIA, which then meant when it broke, I couldn't do anything, so I had to use the hard reset.
Yeah. I like having the two knobs on it. I think that's a really cool idea, especially having the page up and page down.
Yeah. It's one that I didn't think I would like it that much.
Yeah,
but
page
where
up,
I
page
spend a lot of
down,
time
home
reading.
end are surprisingly underrated. It's one of the reasons why I only ever buy Logitech mice now with I have an extreme bias toward a Logitech mouse with freewheel on the scroll wheel.
Yeah.
Because having the freewheel button that just allows you to just fly up and down the page is just so good. Yeah.
Or you just click the wheel in and go.
I guess, yeah.
But it doesn't feel as nice.
Middle click, move up and move down never feels good to me. But yeah, I don't know why.
Imagine that, people using computers in different ways.
I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, freewheeling and then the page up, page down is nice, especially when I'm reading articles or like different business stuff. It's really easy to just say fit page height, and just literally just rotate and you're reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm going to read a page at a time.
Yeah. And you do get to just sit back and just read.
Yeah.
On your 55-inch TV.
It's just also good because with the full programming, like I'm sure, could you program the jog dials? So
you need to see it again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No. It's fine.
Could you reprogram the jog dials so, for example, dial right does a E input and dial left does a Q input, for example. Yeah. Because then you could use. So then, if you let's say you have a game where you have a next weapon previous.
Keep on wanting to press on the mouse mat.
Let's say you had an FPS game where you had a next weapon previous weapon that was dialed into Q and E or something like that.
This is a different version somewhere.
You could then use the jog dial to be a weapon up, weapon down, effectively.
Yes.
So yeah, that would be
for
very
some
interesting.
reason this one isn't actually showing it. I think either I'm found the wrong version or something, but there is in newer versions of the software you can just say this is left and right effectively.
Yeah. Oh, the capture's died again, so you don't get to see that. But yeah. Still, yeah, they're cool. Yeah, I like. Yeah, I hate these ones.
The concept.
You can take your Johnny mnemonic keyboards and go back to the north. However, I like the hardware. I would like this in a more accessible layout.
There's lots of it, and with some of the modern stuff, people have got it where it's you can have Bluetooth versions of it as well. So all of the wireless options also exist.
Yeah. Bluetooth, I don't really care for, just because Bluetooth is can't use Bluetooth in BIOS. Basically, I'm like, if my keyboard doesn't, if I have to plug in a different keyboard to get into BIOS on my system, I have a stupid keyboard.
Yeah,
that's one of my rules, So yeah, I kind of feel like I want to do a dramatic reading of these random words just to try and make a story of them. Much wood paper try them, that then might the state often big point life, like near to he has she family, and they will four-line they are go next.
Going to join the Perry crew now.
Do it. Right, there's my.
How did you feel about the Perry?
The Gladiator got me fucked really fast, and I only had a third of it. I liked the Perry, however, I drank the Perry too quickly to appreciate it, but I did like it. Yes, that Gladiator is devastating, man. I'm a lightweight and I'm drinking on an empty stomach, which is always a bad combination. That's one of the reasons why I seem to be such a lightweight on the show here, is just because obviously I'm drinking on an empty stomach right now. But yeah.
You can also, with via the configurator stuff, you can control the RGB stuff as well.
Yes.
So you can program it to be other stuff. I've left it on stock because
If we go somewhere, we can eventually actually see that there is some RGB.
Oh, Caradog is trying to find the RGB without the flicker. Yeah.
There we go. But yeah.
I see. Did someone ask to see the RGB, or are you just trying to show it off?
No, it was just a case I was just trying to show it off as well.
Yeah.
Just being like, there is the standard RGB on the standard RGB switches.
Yeah. One of the issues we have when we're trying to figure out the shutter speed is that mainly just that the ceiling lights have a extreme amount of flicker on them, which makes it extremely difficult for us to find shutter speeds that work nicely.
30 words a minute, I'll take that.
Mike, these are Kale box jades.
Yes.
Which I didn't know existed. I forgot they existed, but
they very much are jades.
They're fairly heavy, and they're clicky. I
was going to say my other comment.
And they're tactile.
Both of those, both this keyboard and that keyboard, the switches are way too light. Way too light.
Yeah, but you use very heavy. You run really heavy switches, don't you?
Yeah. And which are the second heaviest switches.
Yeah. Part of me, see, when it comes to keyboards, I'm always in a mindset of I want to try exotic stuff to find something that feels nicer, but also because I use lots of different keyboards every day, I don't care for specializing because I'm always having to adjust to a new keyboard every time I sit in front of a different computer.
Yeah.
So there's no like this is one of the reasons why I'm like I would never try Coleman or Dvorak because I'm using another keyboard every day.
Yeah. I mean, it takes all of like a couple of seconds to be able to... because if you've got enough muscle memory of QWERTY, you can still muscle memory it again.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to swap between them. But if you're only going to be using it at home, it's not worth it.
Do you mind if I pop open another one of the Perrys?
Do it.
I'm going to do it. Right, I think that's the...
Yes, because it's the shinies.
Yeah. Yes. Cool.
Yeah, like my keyboard in the office is a code keyboard with MX clears, which is basically the second heaviest switches you can get.
Yeah, I have to admit, I do feel like I want to go in the direction of heavier switches. I don't think I'd want to go super heavy, but I feel like I want to go slightly heavier than average because I like to rest my hands on keys, and now and then I do accidentally press just because I'm resting heavily.
I think for me,
I feel like that more deliberate action would feel nice.
I think for me, I don't like any harder than browns, to be honest.
See, those
are brown equivalents, aren't they?
Those are brown equivalents. That feels heavier than browns.
Those feel lighter to me.
Really? Are you sure?
Maybe it's because browns are tactile, whereas these are pure clicky. So there's not the second
it's
bump.
hard to are those linear or tactile? Because they're clicky, but they feel tactile clicky.
It says just clicky on the order
They are
form
crunchy as well, though.
Yeah, maybe it's just the click that I'm feeling then, because obviously the click itself must have some tactile feedback.
Yeah, they are crunchy as well, though.
Yeah. On the side, so
that's also the difference on like my keyboard that I'm used to typing on. It's had, I don't know. So what do? I normally do. It's not that many, but I will do.
They're slightly heavier than browns, but also the click makes it very difficult to tell.
Yeah, I would say that I do, a minimum of 7,500 words in letters a day.
Yeah.
Times 4, 5, 6 years. So that's however many key presses has been through that keyboard. So it's kind of a case of obviously that keyboard is very well worn.
Yeah.
So it is very smooth because of that.
I'm starting to think about getting smaller form factor of something like this with Bluetooth that would then mean that I can take it anywhere and still have my layout and not care.
I mean, I just want something like that with 2.4 gigahertz. One of the reasons why I love
wireless.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I love this Royal Kludge RK100 is this is wired via Type C, 2.4 gigahertz via a dongle that fits into the back, and it can do Bluetooth as well.
Yeah.
But having the 2.4 gigahertz dongle means that I can have wireless, which you plug in and works at a BIOS level.
Yeah.
So just getting 2.4 gigahertz is the one that you want, in my opinion, because as soon as you go Bluetooth, it's a matter of, okay, now you have to pair it instead of just plugging in a USB receiver.
Yeah.
And like, if you're daily driving a laptop, Bluetooth may well be extremely desirable because A, if you want to get into the BIOS, the laptop has its own keyboard, and B, if you're on a laptop, you have limited USB and you don't want to have one permanently occupied by the USB receiver. So that's the point where Bluetooth makes sense.
The other side is also, if it's Bluetooth, you can also tablet or even your phone if you really want to.
Yeah.
I've seen some people where they will just take a tablet and just do it. They can have it on their lap and do it.
That was my consideration for a while, was doing it with a phone.
Just
because also a case of having the kind of autocorrect that you have from like SwiftKey or Gboard, but on a physical keyboard is an interesting experience for just hammering out words at incredible speed, kind of thing.
Ian asks, do Royal Cludge do the UK pound sign on the keyboard yet? I'm not sure. I don't
know if they've got an ISO layout.
Yeah, I don't think they have an ISO layout. If you're getting into custom and or exotic keyboards, my advice is to get used to US layout and just do it, because for the longest time I was like, no, I want a pound symbol on my keyboard because I'm in England. However, if you want to do exotic keyboards, restricting yourself to an ISO layout narrows your options a lot.
Or having something that supports QMK VIA.
Yeah,
I was
then
going
you
to
can
say,
obviously just edit the layout as you wish.
Yeah, so QMK VIA, that would solve this problem because again, like with this keyboard, you can just program in what you want to happen. So yeah, that's a viable option. The other alternative, so I think that might be the sweet spot actually, because then you can just program it to be what you want.
I mean, some people do have those, and
failing that, just to finish from my thought, on the Royal Cludge, one of the reasons why I love this is 95%, which is basically with a numpad but crushed down. So it's it's got a numpad, but it's the size of a 10 keyless, just about. And because it has the numpad for the pound symbol, I can do Alt 156 to put in a pound symbol. And once you've got that memorized, which doesn't take long, pound symbol is just not a big deal for me because I just do Alt 156. However, I can't do that. You have to have a numpad to do alt codes. You can't do alt codes on the top row of numbers. So that means that now by my own admission, if I'm going to ASCII layout, now I have to have a numpad in order to put in a pound symbol. So yeah, getting a custom keyboard that supports VIA or QMK then becomes your next option. You're now into custom territory. So yeah, it's kind of...
There are some just some companies that do just make them with that support built in. They are on the less cheap end, but they do still exist.
But it's also a case of you could probably just swap the controller in for a QMK controller for 35 quid. Because QMK controllers are like 35 quid.
Entirely
that would be a very interesting mod. If you can get that would be a very interesting mod to do that keyboard.
It would very much purely depend on like how you do the matrixing and all of that.
I've made empty threats about doing keyboard stuff several times, but I'll reiterate them again one more time anyway. Is the things that I would be interested in doing is I want to build a custom keyboard, although modifying that Royal Cludge with a QMK controller would be super interesting. The other thing that I want to do as well is I want to take my ancient Cooler Master keys that I have at home, and I want to completely rebuild it with new switches that I've oiled and greased and sprung and put felt on the bottom of the deck and just done everything that it is possible to do to a keyboard. I want to do to that Cooler Master keys and see if that makes it feel like $1 million basically.
And on top of that, you do somewhere have my old Chalk Browns for the project that never was. So those are also existing.
Yes. So I need to look that up. I not long ago I did a order from JLC PCB for other reasons to do my custom body trackers, and so because I have done a Because I have... Oh, hello. And we'll come back to that in a moment.
Let me give you a better option.
Because
I was just
because I've made an order from JLC PCB now and I'm familiar with the process, I feel a lot more comfortable with ordering custom PCBs. I knew it wasn't difficult, I'd just never done it before. But yeah. Caradog has just found very, very cheap Raspberry Pis, I think.
No, but it was more the Pine Pico, and then using that as your keyboard controller.
I see, yeah.
Or you go with that, which is more of everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's just a case of, like, you can get designed keyboard controllers for £20,
£25.
And
as it is, there, that one's mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
As it is, there's quite a lot of stuff on GitHub pages and lots of people who have gone through how to design keyboards and get everything going. So it can be fairly easy to get it started.
Yeah. Jay says, can you not just change the keyboard language in Windows? Yes and no. You can, but then you get other problems because there's more differences in the keyboard language than just the pound symbol. So, for example, on let's just put that under the camera. And what happened to Carol? Could you mouse, please?
I was just gonna do
What do you want the other way
this, so we can actually.
Yes. Yep. And oh yeah, we've got a direct comparison there.
So you could do that.
So yeah, we're in the right place. And you want this dial here, and you just want to nudge that up a bit. That'll do. Yep, that'll do it. And I'll move to there. There we go. So this is US ASCII layout. Is it ASCII layout? Is that correct?
Yes.
Or is it ANSI?
ASCII, because ANSI is American.
Yeah, no, it is the ANSI, ANSI layout.
ANSI. Yeah, okay. So this is US ANSI layout. This is ISO European layout.
Yes.
And obviously this is a non-standard keyboard, but it's still got the approximate layout. So on a UK keyboard, you've got the pound symbol at the top here, Shift 3 to get the pound sterling symbol. Now, obviously, because that's our national currency, we kind of use it quite often, so we kind of need it. Whereas on an American keyboard, you have the hash symbol there, not to be confused with the pound symbol.
The octathorpe. It is an octathorpe. Something pound.
Yeah.
Me too.
There's the dude who writes the novelty books. There's a Chuck Tingle book about this somewhere. Anyway, so if we change this to UK keyboard, doing Shift 3 would give me a pound symbol, but now my @ and double quote symbols are the wrong way round. And in addition to that, now my backslash doesn't work, and my backslash becomes the hash symbol. This won't work. This will become the bar, the vertical bar.
It becomes
vertical
bar.
Yeah.
Quote.
Yeah, and and we're missing an entire key down on the left shift here, which the UK keyboard has. We have a short left shift here with an additional key down here. So that's the problem. If you just change the language, a whole load of other small bits move around. And you can account for this if you memorize it, but it's annoying, basically. So that's the thing. There's more than just that symbol. Whereas if you're running software where you're mapping keys out, you can correct all of those things, and you could make an ANSI layout keyboard that has everything in the correct place, but still does a pound symbol when you do Shift 3 because you've told it to.
The other, I can't find it on here, but those two separate. So this one versus the UK version, the tilde and caret and everything, tilde and apostrophe, whatever. They are literally different key codes when you're actually programming.
Yeah, they are different keyboard codes. They are different letter codes.
And one other thing that's interesting with things like the QMK and everything else is you start being able to have access to effectively combination keys. So one that I have on my normal layout is where enter is at the moment. So on one of the keys, it's normally an enter, but if I hold it down, it's a shift.
Oh, interesting. So a tap is enter, but if you're holding it, it functions as shift.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of cool.
And you start getting to be able to have loads of stuff like that.
Oh, so it's enter. It's enter on key up.
No.
Well, no.
Enter on.
Well, it'd
enter
be
or shift.
Enter on key up, or it would be enter on key up within X milliseconds.
Sure,
yeah.
Effectively, because otherwise
Yeah.
you are entering and then shift.
Generally, it's called like tap versus hold.
Yeah.
Generally, is kind of the language that people use for it. And you can start doing loads of different ones like that, and whatever macros you want programmed in.
Yeah.
Fluffy
But
Tail
stuff
just
like that is
says.
very cool.
Fluffy Tail says just swap the keycaps around for the right sign. That is also potentially possible, but again, it's still slightly awkward. And
It also doesn't work for backslash.
Yeah, and I was going to say the other problem with this as well is that if you plug that, if you start making a keyboard with custom symbols on it, and you plug that into another computer, then it does weird things. Now, obviously, it's not very often that you move a keyboard between computers, but it's kind of the principle of the thing. And this is why one of the first questions I asked Telltak earlier on was, are the profiles stored in hardware? And that was purely for the reason is it means that Telltak brought this keyboard in and we plugged it into a laptop, and with zero configuration, it just worked. We didn't have to set a language. We didn't have to load a profile. It just worked. And that is kind of important to me. I don't want to run software for my keyboard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's also the case of the other thing with swapping the keycaps is some of the key functions are different functions on different keys that are split or combined differently between the UK and US layout.
Yeah.
Like the UK single quote is the US tilde.
Yeah, totally different names, let alone...
Yeah, and it's just a case of the UK single quote and the UK double quote are on the same...
Yeah.
Are on different keys.
Okay. Fluffy Tail was actually trolling. However, for those of you who were curious, there is the actual answer.
Yeah, it's
Fluffy
because
Tail,
the key
you know
splitting,
what you did. You know.
Because the key splitting is different. So, like, on the UK keyboard, you have at and single quote, whereas on the US keyboard, single quote and double quote are on the same key. So the actual letters typed are differently split.
Yeah. Amsterdam asks, can a computer use an Apple keyboard? Can a Windows computer use an Apple keyboard? Yes, absolutely. They're extremely similar. Again, it's just an odd keyboard layout. So the Apple keyboard, the main difference is... One moment, I'll grab one, because I've got one. Hang on a second, I will answer this question.
So, Scotty Doggy, when you're using stuff like QMK or anything like that, you don't lose the functionality. Normally, you're gaining more. You just have to put a little bit more effort in to get it to work.
It's the initial setup kind of question.
Yeah.
So here's an Apple keyboard.
I was bamboozled the first time I ever saw a full-size Apple keyboard. Because I'd only ever seen effectively the 10 keyless wireless ones.
Oh, right, yes, yeah.
And then I saw a full-size one and I was like, what is this?
Where is the zoom?
Yeah, there. Yep. Yeah, the Apple keyboard is... the full-size Apple keyboard is uncommon because it's only the wired keyboard that is full-size. All of the wireless ones are 10 keyless.
Yeah.
Or further. So, yeah. Anyway, so the Apple keyboard is a bit of an oddball. So the first things first is command is Apple's equivalent of the Windows key. So it's the special key, basically. So Alt and Command are reversed. If you look down on the Windows keyboard, you've got Special Alt, whereas on this one you've got Alt Special. And then Control is still in the bottom left. So the first things first is this will function as the Windows key, and this will function as the Alt key, but they're the other way around. So when you plug it into this will still bring up the Windows keyboard, but you've got to change your muscle memory to remember that they've changed around. So if you try and do Alt-A, you've got to do Alt-A there instead of there. So those are the other way around, firstly. But this is in hardware, so it doesn't affect software. Yeah.
No.
Caradog has just pointed out where the major issues start. So now where it starts getting fucky is that this is a UK keyboard. And on a UK keyboard, you should have double quote in the top left and the @ symbol in the bottom right. A US keyboard has the @ symbol in the top left and double quote in the bottom right. But then Apple were like, yes, but what if I gave you a UK keyboard with @ in the top left and double quote in the bottom right? Now, this completely breaks you because I can switch between UK and US layouts quite easily. However, when you give me a vertical carriage return key and a US layout @ and double quote, that breaks me.
The one that interests me is, why do they have the paragraph symbol and a plus minus?
I don't know, but apparently people want a paragraph and a plus minus symbol, and they want tilde and backtick in the bottom left. So there are just lots of subtle layouts. However, if you plug this into a Windows keyboard, I think it will do exactly what it says on the keyboard. I'm just going to verify that because we can.
All the way up to F19.
Yes. So, right. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to plug this in and just double check that. I think it functions as a UK keyboard, but I think the @ and double quote will be the wrong way round. That's my prediction. Right. We need to.
Died, didn't it?
Yeah, we need to replug the capture card to make that work. So you might just have to take my word for it. Caradog is doing the thing. So.
J, yes. It just doesn't do anything. You can set things to read it though.
Yeah.
For example, on most Logitech,
there it goes. Yeah.
For example, on most Logitech mice and the whole Logitech software, you can go up to F100 or something stupid.
Oh, God.
And you can then tell programs to listen for it.
Oh, interesting. Control T isn't working. Control L? Alt
Do you
L?
want to go click outside of that tab, maybe?
Oh,
just
yeah.
in case it's capturing.
Oh, no, interesting. It's really unhappy, actually, with that. Firstly, it's inverted caps lock for some reason or other. Fine, whatever. Testing this keyboard. So that works. So Shift 2 is giving me double quotes. So it's giving me the UK layout because I haven't changed it. And that is giving me the bar. That is giving me...
the weird one.
Yeah. And Shift is not making any difference to those keys. So, and that's giving... the / is giving me tilde because that would be correct for the UK. Yeah, it's basically doing a UK layout on this.
Just funky.
Yeah, and because the laptop itself is on English UK. So that kind of makes sense, basically. So, however, if I press the Command key, for example, it gives me the Start menu. So it works, but the layout is wrong. So you would have to create a custom layout. And you can do that. You can download a custom keyboard layout for an Apple keyboard that will map the label symbols to the thing. But yeah, you've got to be fairly dedicated to use a Mac keyboard on Windows. It does work.
How would you function or alternate? No, functions.
We don't have a function key on this, no. So actually, oh yeah, so let's see. The F keys are functioning as F keys because they're not doing anything else.
Well, no, but if they were functioning as F keys, you would have just had help come up.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. However, the laptop does not understand the function keys from here.
But you did get search come up.
Yeah. Well, that's doing...
Yeah.
Some of them are doing context menu.
Yeah.
It's doing weird things. Yeah, we'd have to sit down and figure that out, but...
Is there any way to get it?
Oh, yeah, command.
That Windows helped.
Yeah. Is that Command F1? Yeah, so if I do Windows F1 there... Yeah, that is unique because... actually, Windows FN F1? Yeah. Windows F1 is still help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Weird. Apple keyboards are weird, yo.
Madness.
You can use an Apple keyboard on a Windows computer, but you shouldn't, basically.
Yeah.
Unless you really, 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 really like Apple keyboards. But the answer to that is, if you like Apple keyboards, that means you like low-profile keyboards, and you can buy just a Windows low-profile keyboard. They exist. So if you really like Apple keyboards, what you actually want is a low-profile keyboard. Go and buy one. So, yeah. Amsterdam really likes Apple. Yeah, I went through a phase of really liking Apple keyboards as well. And then I saw the light. So, yeah.
And then you were mocked mercilessly.
I was, but that's not what made me change. What made me change was the Apple keyboard I was using was Bluetooth, and I got sick of not being able to go into BIOS. So that was a Bluetooth issue. And actually what I ended up going to was one of these Logitechs. These are the Logitechs that I use around the shop, and I use them because they have built-in trackpads. So that means they're incredibly convenient. However, these are
not a good typing experience.
These are hideous to type on. It is difficult to explain why they're hideous to type on, but they're hideous to type on. They're just awful, and also the trackpads are awful. However, these are really good to have kicking around the shop because you plug I plug the wireless adapter. Here's the wireless adapter, and it's on an Enimax lanyard, which is why this has Enimax written on it. I plug that into the computer, and I now have a mouse and keyboard. That's why I have these. They're actually awful, though. So, yeah, so much sponge, yes. Yeah, they're incredibly good utilitarian keyboards, but don't ever... I tried to use one of these as a daily driver, and then I was like, I'm just going to get a normal mouse and keyboard like a normal person. And my experience got much better. Actually, it didn't, because that was when I got that Marathon mouse that has the really odd tracking on it. And I thought that I'd lost my ability to play FPS games.
Which separately you had.
Yeah. Right, okay. We have talked about keyboards for an hour and 20 minutes.
Are we going to, continue to annoy people and just go, that's it, guys. See you next week.
So, unironically, either I'm going to need to quickly call someone to get a lift, or we'll need to finish by like past ish.
Yes. Okay, right.
So
it's okay.
up
We
to
can
you
do it next week.
We could. Are we actually going to blue ball everyone?
Yes.
I apologise, stream. It's my own fault.
I can change the stream title and
No
I
one
can
will know.
yeah and just gaslight the internet.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not gaslighting. It's telling them the truth.
Yeah. I'm sorry, everyone.
You can blame me.
Next week on Two Guys Talk Tech.
Water blocks.
Okay, well, that being the case, are we done or are we changing the topic?
No,
Is there anything?
I think that's it. Unless there's anything that
Yeah.
Telltak has to suddenly force upon us.
There's a lot of things I think you could force upon us. But,
Unless people suddenly want some really in-depth stuff for a little while.
yeah. But we want merch. No, yeah. Next video, there's no plan actually, because nothing got made this week. Not for lack of trying. I had a couple of videos, but they didn't go anywhere. So no idea, I'm afraid. So yeah. Yeah. That's the Amsterdam says there are 2 USB ports on the keyboard, but they don't work. That's the other problem. These keyboards are kind of cool because they've got USB ports on them. The only thing that it's good for is plugging in a basic mouse, though, which is what they were designed for. But yeah, again, it's just like it seems like a good idea, but to use one of these as a daily keyboard because they're kind of cool. But in practice, no. In practice, the answer is no. So yeah.
Duma, the Raspberry Pi is cool, but unless they've fixed all of the other shortage issues, I don't see why they're bothering with a new one yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
also, the new one is like £60.
And you can get an Ox 64, which will do more for less.
My comment was kind of being incredibly generous, and if like the Pi 5 is made in a different facility, so it's adding capacity to the Pi community. So the Pi 4 is made in one factory and the Pi 5 is in another, and they are maxing capacity in both. Then obviously, kind of understand why you do that.
But the problem isn't that there's a lot of user demand. It's businesses are buying them in bulk and using them for random IoT crap.
Yeah.
And it's not that that's going to improve the pipeline, because it will just be business will just increase their costs and get whatever they can get.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
just kind of, being generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If adding another product in means that your demand is now split between two products that are dual sourced, that are manufactured in two
theory.
places, kind of thing. But yeah.
Very well. JD says custom loot build. Maybe. Caradog received toys today that has made us think about them again. We're still... Yeah. So, Caradog bought Alpha Cool stuff. Yeah, Caradog has betrayed EK, much to JD's delight, and has bought what is theoretically the best water block on the market right now.
Until you guys break it.
Until we put the jet plate in the wrong way around, yeah. So, yeah, we have more water cooling stuff. There's ideas for me to do a live stream build on the main channel for numbers, and we're kind of still collecting hardware for that. I'm waiting for Intel 14th gen to come out, which is like in a month, because then 12th and 13th gen will drop in price, and I've got a Z790 motherboard. So then I can buy a 12th or 13th gen on the cheap for it. And at that point, I'm probably going to get a load of gear together and do a promo build on the main channel. So we're kind of planning that out, and I kind of want to do soft tube water cooling on that to make it a cool build, and also just get more practice at water cooling. So yeah, however, we might do just more idle practice with this and just play with it, because I think I want practice building water cooling loops, and I want practice building water cooling loops in a PC as well, because it's easy enough to do it on the bench. You just push things together. We did that last week, but I want more practice doing it in a case and building something that would actually be a daily driver kind of thing. So we need to buy just a crap ton of soft tubing.
Also need to actually find those mounts to mount pumps to fans.
Yeah, and just buy a couple of them.
So I meant to look them up and entirely forgot to actually look.
Yeah.
But yeah, just because obviously those will make the entire thing much easier if you can actually mount the pump somewhere.
Yeah.
Instead of having to custom fashion
you've got a
something.
3D printer.
But yeah, that was also the second idea, was just 3D printing something.
JD says EDPM or clear.
Those words must mean something to you.
EPDM or clear.
That one.
I got the black block, but then
it has RGB
on the tubing. Yeah, it'll just be whatever the cheap clear tubing is.
Yeah.
So we'll just buy whatever the cheapest clear tubing
because
is.
Certainly, like for a promo build, I'm not building a water cooled PC to sell in here, because it won't sell. It'll be too expensive. I would be building something up for the sake of doing a promo stream. Then when the stream is over, I'll pull the water cooling out of it, probably air cool it, and then it would go on sale.
We can talk about that, because I was thinking about getting a new PC soon.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to go bonkers.
Well, I'm thinking $2,000.
Yeah, shit's expensive at the moment. However, $2,000 might be in custom. No,
it doesn't necessarily need a graphics card, because I've got a 6700 XT.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that was one of the things that we were possibly going to talk about today, but just time ran away from us. But yeah, we'll keep a. We'll keep a.
The only difficulty would be shipping it.
Yeah,
but
we'll keep an open mind about
it's
that.
Fine.
Then.
I'll just have to find new excuses to come up.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, moving on.
Excuses to drive to.
Excuses to drive to the Midlands.
To drive to north.
To drive in a northerly direction. From here, if we need to get to you, what direction do we? What cardinal direction do we drive in?
Hubwards.
I see. Good.
For all spokes on a wheel.
So
an infinite wheel.
So
infinitely spinning
it's
in an infinite space.
it's weird Terry Pratchett lore, but if you're going on Discworld, if you're going to the edge of the Discworld, you're going rimwards. If you're going to the middle of the world, you're going hubwards.
All right, you made a Terry Pratchett reference.
You're
I've
welcome.
never read any Terry Pratchett, so I didn't get it because I'm uncultured.
My sum total of Terry Pratchett knowledge is you gave her a sword. That's not a present for children. What if she hurts herself? Then it'll be a lesson.
I've enjoyed this conversation in English.
Good. I too have enjoyed this
Yes.
conversation in English.
And
English is a conversation that I've enjoyed.
Telltak has enjoyed this conversation in Cloud Talk. So, yeah.
And if there is sufficient demand, I'm sure we can pull something off in the Discord to do a remote one when you are
Yes.
home.
Things can always exist.
Yeah, as I say, for the 3 people who are watching the VOD, if you want more Cloud Waffle, if there is interest in in-depth stuff like this, let us know. We'll make it happen because we've got a guy who knows about this kind of thing. So yeah. There's the mouse. I was like, who has the mouse?
You understand. You know the buttons.
Someone knows how to stop this stream.
Someone knows how to stop this
Yep.
journey.
Someone knows how to get off of Mr. Bones' wild ride. I've enjoyed this convo in... Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks for being here.